There we go. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to call our meeting to order. We have the full council with us tonight, but Councillor Nash is online, not in person in the room. However, Councillor Woods, Councillor Bray, Councillor Lamb are here in the room, in the community center. And I'm Mayor George Comrie, and we have with us our CAO clerk, Michelle Hendry, our treasurer, Manish Kulal, and our planning assistant, Paula Macri, and our fire chief, Bob Whitman. And we have some guests that we'll be introducing just in a few minutes. As usual, we'd like to start the meeting with the playing of O Canada, followed by our land acknowledgement. The municipality of Whitestone recognizes all of Canada resides on traditional, unceded, and/or treaty lands of the Indigenous people of Turtle Island. We recognize our municipality on the Robinson Huron Treaty Territory is home to many past, present, and future Indigenous families. This acknowledgement of the land is a declaration of our commitment and collective responsibility to reconcile the past and to honor and value the culture, history, and relationships we have with one another. I'll now ask if any member of council has a pecuniary interest to disclose in tonight's proceedings. Okay, hearing none. Could I get a mover and seconder, please, to approve the agenda? Councillor Lamb moves, Councillor Bray seconds. Any discussion? If not, we'll call the question.
Councillor Bray?
Yes.
Councillor Lamb?
Yes.
Councillor Nash?
Yes.
Councillor Woods?
Yes.
Mayor Comrie?
Yes.
Thank you. That motion is carried.
And we have no presentations and delegations, but we do have a presentation, I guess, two items really, some planning matters and a matter related to replacement of the pumper truck, our fire and rescue pumper truck. So we're going to do those in committee of the whole. Could I get a mover and seconder, please, to move into committee of the whole? I see Councillor Woods moves, Councillor Bray seconds. All those in favor?
Councillor Bray?
Yes.
Counselor Lamb,
Yes.
Counselor Nash,
Yes.
Counselor Woods,
Yes.
Mayor Comrie.
Yes.
It is 6:37 and we are in committee of the whole. That's carried.
Okay, thank you. So our first item is the matter related to the fire, the pumper truck. And we have a report in the package tonight from Performance Concepts Consulting, and we have with us this evening two representatives of Performance Concepts, Todd McDonald and John Pinot. And I think the plan is that they'll introduce their report to us, and then we'll have an opportunity for questions afterwards. So, gentlemen, thanks for joining us. And
Todd, I've allowed you, I assume you have the presentation and I've allowed
do,
you to
thank
share
you,
my screen.
J.O. Hendry, and good evening, Mayor and members of council. The good news is you're actually getting 3 members of our team for the price of 2. Myself, the president of Performance Concepts, a management consulting firm that's been working in the municipal sector since 2000, over 300 completed assignments for municipalities across the country. The lead of our emergency services practice, John Pernot, a former EMS chief and conversant in all things emergency services. And our bonus tonight is our colleague, Mr. Raymond Ormerod, who is a fire chief and apparatus expert. Ray is the chief in Central Elgin, has been a deputy chief in St. Thomas, and has forgotten more about fire apparatus than I know. So we have been very fortunate to have his expertise inform our work tonight. I have a slide deck, Mr. Mayor, which represents the gist of our report, and myself and my colleagues will have a few remarks as we move along. I promise to keep it as brief as possible.
okay, thank you, and welcome, Raymond, as well. We can see your screen.
Bravo, that's good news.
I think
And
anybody
hopefully now you
who's
can see
online
the
should be able to see it.
Presentation in a comfortable way. So as you know, our team was retained to provide you with some independent, impartial third-party advice on an impending decision that you have about replacement of your pumper truck at your primary station. We have benefited from the knowledge and insight of your chief and your CAO to help us understand the situation. But what you see here tonight is our sort of third-party, impartial, evidence-informed cost-benefit analysis that we hope will inform the decisions that this council is going to have to make around this piece of apparatus. Now, we know that the factors that impact the decision to replace or not replace a piece of apparatus are multidimensional. There is the consistency of emergency response. Of course, we want to have reliable apparatus that when we need it is able to respond and is resilient in the face of the workload that's put upon it. We have the consideration of taxpayer cost and value for money. These are expensive pieces of apparatus. And of course, we want to get the timing and the decision right before we expend funds. An important factor in our analysis is the impact of this replace or not replace decision on property insurance rates. More granular information on that factor in our report and presentation. And then the fourth thing, the fourth element that we wanted to look into was the opportunity for continuous improvement when it comes to the quality of an RFP process and technical submission requirements to bidders so that we get, again, the best match between your needs and these questions of sort of price and value. So these are the considerations that we had looked at. We didn't necessarily look at workload volume because workload volume itself may or may not be a decisive factor. but certainly age of apparatus is. And so let me start with each of those categories of sort of criteria that we use, and start with this question of response consistency and fleet age. And the insurance industry has guidelines on age of fleet. The NFPA has guidelines on age of fleet. What you see here is the information about the Fire Underwriter Survey, and they typically rate pumper vehicles over 20 years old as a spare fleet vehicle and not as an everyday first response truck. Now, there's some flexibility on that 20-year time frame based on the condition of the truck and fleet maintenance programs if they are tip-top. And of course, as the pumper ages beyond 20 years old, the expectation of continuous and reliable service begins to decrease and becomes a potential performance risk. So independent of questions of insurance and other questions, the sort of the industry standard wisdom is that 20 years is a not always definitive, but a pretty pivotal and important decision-making criteria when you're considering the replacement decision. Now, beyond that sort of operational concern, there is the always important impact on resident and business property insurance rates. And John Perneau, my colleague, is a very informed fellow from the work that we have done in a number of places on these matters. And John, I'm wondering if I could ask you to speak to sort of the next few slides, and I'll move them forward at your bequest. And I think you can speak with authority to these questions of how the insurance industry views the fire suppression service.
Sure, and good evening, everyone. This is just a little diagram that we did to give you an idea of how the insurance rates travel from the lowest insurance rates to the highest insurance rates. And the lowest insurance rates are provided to a municipality that has fire hydrants within 1,000 feet of each of the residences that they're insuring. That's an urban response level, if you like. The next level, so the next lowest insurance rate, if you like, or next highest if you're going up the ladder, but the second lowest in the criteria here is if you have an accredited tanker shuttle service. And this has to be accompanied by 365-day per year maintained road network to all the addresses before it qualifies for this reduction in insurance. And this is considered to be fire hydrant-like, if you like, for the type of protection that's provided. But for the most rural municipalities fall into one of the next two categories. If you have a recognized fire hall within 13 or 8 kilometers, and those two numbers, it seems strange to have two numbers there, but the insurance companies have different values. Some insurance companies will provide the discount for a fire hall within 8 kilometers. Others will provide it for up to 13 kilometers. What they consider a recognized fire hall is one with apparatus that's less than 20 years of age, and that they respond regularly more than 15 firefighters to a fire response. And then the highest insurance rate, or the least protected, is what they consider unprotected residences or businesses. And those are any that are outside of that 13 kilometer or 8 kilometer, depending on the insurance company. So that's basically how the rates travel. And there's different percentages for the increases on each one of those. The other thing that some of the insurance companies require is at least one pumper and one tanker regularly located at the station. And we talked about the trucks being not more than 20 years of age. And you see the note at the bottom about the equivalent rates to hydrant service areas for tanker shuttle accreditation. So what tanker shuttle accreditation, if you don't know, this is a test of each municipality's ability to deliver water to a fire from other sources other than hydrants. So whether they're getting it from a dry hydrant, like in your situation, or a flowing body of water, a lake, a pond, that sort of thing. and they have certain criteria of how much water has to be collected and then put on, made available to the tanker trucks, or sorry, made available by the tanker trucks to the pumper trucks for any particular fire. And we can talk a little bit about that in a second here. Next slide there. And Todd, I'll leave this one to you.
Oh, okay, sure, John. So the reality of this situation in Whitestone is that the primary station would seem to be in a position to generate insurance rate discounts because, first of all, you can probably check the box on the requirement of at least 15 deployable firefighters. That's not the case at the secondary station. And this is an important piece of information. We have tried to use mapping information, some household mapping, and then the MPAC assessment data roll to try to understand how many municipal addresses or households might, and I stress might, qualify for a property insurance rate discount. Now, regrettably, the address roll and the MPAC roll that we received to do this analysis wasn't always crystal clear about whether there's a house on that address or a business on that address, i.e. a structure insured, or whether we were dealing with, either, address or roll numbers that didn't have houses or not. So we've had to range very prudently, the range of properties that might be qualifying for this discount, somewhere between 1,000-ish and perhaps up to as many as 2,000. Highly unlikely it's the entire 2,000. What we do know from work that we've done elsewhere is that the average discount on a typical household that you're achieving when you're within 8 to 13 kilometers and you've got a station with 15 firefighters is around that $250 per household in terms of your insurance rate discount. And so, the math is fairly straightforward here, members of council. We ended up with a range of sort of total annual discounts that could run somewhere in that 270,000 to as much as 500,000, probably closer to the 270,000 for the community if Whitestone continues to meet the above noted requirements. And of course, those requirements are 15 firefighters, properties within the catchment area, and all importantly, a pumper of 20 years of age or less. And it's reasonable to assume that if pumper replacement is not the decision that council opts for, perhaps you decide that there's a lot of life left in the existing pumper from a workload point of view, but from an insurance bureau point of view, they will look at a 25-year-old pumper, for instance, and say, you no longer qualify for the discount, and you would move from, the third category up into the unprotected category with some unfortunate financial consequences for, an estimated, a range of estimates of properties. So this would definitely have a financial impact in a lot of living rooms when they do their budgets, around the kitchen table on a Monday night every month. And so we wanted to bring that to your attention, that the impact is not just a question of property tax impacts, it's also a financial impact around those kitchen tables when people are looking at the impacts on their insurance rates. So with that in mind, we switched our attention, keeping the insurance rate question firmly in mind, we switched our attention to sort of a scenario of how a new pumper, a replacement pumper could be funded. We put a $750,000 hypothetical price on it. The price may be a little less, it might be a little more. That will depend on market conditions and the result of an RFP. We know that you have funding in the Apparatus Reserve Fund that would serve as a contribution. We thought the appropriate companion piece of the financing plan would be a 20-year debenture that would spread both the cost and the benefit of the pumper across a generation of residents that would enjoy those benefits. And the property tax impact would be, of course, the annual debenture servicing costs that would have to be covered in your operating budget. So this approach generates a stream of annual property tax costs that are less than or equal to the annual property insurance savings dividend that we talked about. So at both the per household level and at the total level, we came up with a funding approach that we think makes sense vis-a-vis, the imputed increase in costs that households would face if we don't replace the pumper. So what that means in plain English is that when we debentured $520,000, we accounted for a reserve contribution, and then we said we have to debenture $520,000 worth of pumper. We debentured it over 20 years. We used the Infrastructure Ontario debenture amortization schedule. We applied a reasonable financing rate of about 5%. As I said, we debentured over 20 years, and the annual servicing payment for that was just under $34,000. So that $34,000 property tax increase for a new fire apparatus, a pumper apparatus with 20 years of serviceable life, and thus 20 years of guaranteed insurance rate discounts, was $37,000, and much less than the annual property rate discount total of somewhere between $250, $270, and as much as $520. So from that household kitchen budget table, faced with two choices, those households would invariably opt for their share of that $33,000 debenture payment, as opposed to their loss of that $270,000 or more insurance rate discount. So we thought, from a financial point of view, that this became, around those kitchen tables, this became a fairly transparent decision. So keep the financial analysis in mind. Moving on to the quality of the RFP process, and Chief Omerod was our subject matter expert in this area. And Chief, when I show these slides, I've relied completely on your expertise here. So if on any of these you'd like to offer comment, I'd certainly invite that. I mean, people can read here, of course, but I would invite your comment on any of the next couple slides as well.
Yes, sir. Not a problem.
So as you can see here, we started with the observation that the prior RFP that was constructed may have been restrictive to some bidders. We think that sort of overall loosening some of the requirements and reissuing the full range, and reissuing to the full range of manufacturers, or indeed using an RFI, a request for information, as a first step to inform the structure of the RFP, would elicit a better response than you had enjoyed the last time out. In particular, a request for information allows a discussion between the vendors and the department as to what's available and what's possible. It allows you to zone in, if you will, on a more informed purchase. And we think that specifying that you would accept sort of a demonstrator that still might not have a full 20 years of insurance rate discount life, but would have a sizable portion of it and at a demonstrably lower cost, is also an opportunity that's worthy of discussion. So particularly like across the RFP, Chief Omerod and John Perneau did some work and had full dialogue with your fire chief about the RFP review. As we note here, at an overarching sense, it was seen to be well thought out, with the unique requirements of the department in mind. But we do, however, have a number of items that we think are useful continuous improvement opportunities around delivery, around the service and warranty support, around warranties in general. And we think these are refinements in a subsequent move to market that will broaden the appeal and perhaps solicit a tighter fit with your requirements and perhaps more respondents. We moved on again. some technical provisions around apparatus here, around general design, around sharp edges, around the angle of departure, around chassis, around foam level gauge, around foam systems. Chief Omerod can answer any technical questions that you have about those matters. God knows I can't. Hose beds, body compartments, ladder and pike pole storage, tow eye. So we got into the granular detail that only subject matter experts in fire apparatus can. And we had some very specific sort of granular recommendations about how you can tweak, refine, and improve the technical specs in an RFP. So with that analysis in mind, we developed go-forward recommendations. Specifically, the first recommendation is that, in our professional opinion, a used truck is not a viable option, and there's a whole series of operational reasons that you can see in detail. The strategic financial reason is around the age of apparatus and the loss of insurance discount. If the truck's 10 years old and you save a bundle of money buying it, that may be superficially appealable, but you'll only buy 10 years of insurance discount, insurance rate discount cushion moving forward, and that would put you in a purchase again position relatively sooner. So we think the optimal approach is to max out that insurance rate discount by opting for a vehicle purchase with something that is very close to 20 years of useful life. We think purchasing a new stock fire apparatus is a viable approach. And you get a full and complete warranty package, as you see. Build times are a little bit less. And there could be an opportunity there, as we said, to reach out and inquire about what demonstrator units might be available on the market. And those, of course, you get full warranty at a reduced price over a new vehicle. But you got to take what you get. And of course, the age of the demonstrator vehicle, again, is an important question when it comes to the amount of insurance rate discount you're going to you sort of purchase along with the apparatus itself. A custom built is also a viable approach, generally more expensive, but also designed to be the most functional. You know, this is due to build exactly what the department wants with regard to sizes, pump size, chassis configuration, engine size, and a custom built apparatus will take longer to get due to the specifics spent on design and manufacturing. So again, there's pluses and minuses from stock versus custom built, but both are viable approaches according to our team. So with that in mind, on to the first of two recommendation packages. We are recommending that the municipality proceed to replace the existing pumper as soon as possible with a new or demo pumper that will generate close to 20 years of ongoing property insurance rate discounts for the permanent and seasonal residents and businesses of the municipality. And that is a straightforward cost-benefit analysis from our point of view. The insurance rate discount savings that will accrue to households are greater than the marginal costs of the $37,000 debenture payment that the municipality would have to absorb. And around those tables, money is money. And the question of a slight increase in the property tax burden versus a big increase in the insurance rate discount makes that viable, this approach viable for households. We're recommending that you adopt the hybrid funding approach that we're talking about, which includes a robust reserve contribution from your existing reserve plus the 20-year debenture. And the result will be an affordable sort of estimated net property tax burden increase of about $37,000, which, as we said, is much less than the annual insurance rate dividend of the $250 per household applied over, applied over 1,000 or 2,000, hard to specify households that would face that impact. And then finally, we're recommending that you implement our improved RFP execution and specifications that we've just sort of explained in the report. So our first bundle of recommendations focuses exclusively on that replace, yes or no, and if so, with what set of questions that we were asked to answer. This second set of recommendations is our sort of our bonus pack, if I can put it that way, of recommendations. You'll recall that a tanker shuttle certification could deepen the insurance rate discounts that hundreds, if not 1,000, of your households in the municipality are in, property rolls are enjoying in the municipality, and that the feasibility of a tanker shuttle certification at your primary station is certainly worth investigating actively. And that model would make use of a collaborative model with an adjacent fire service partner, because from an apparatus point of view, you're certainly going to need more than one tanker pumper combo to sort of make that happen. And we're recommending that a mutual aid model or an automatic aid model, and again, John or the chief can explain the difference, either of those approaches to building the critical mass of apparatus that's needed are worthy of review. And we're recommending that the chief report back to council in 2024, probably by Q3, with some sort of an action plan if it's feasible. And so that will take some some legwork to examine the possibility of collaboration with neighboring departments that have mutual aid or automatic aid arrangements with Whitestone. But we think that this opportunity to deepen the benefits for insurance holders in the municipality after the pumper is purchased makes a lot of sense to pursue and see if this is possible. And we know from experience that tanker shuttle certification with some of your neighbors have been achieved using some combination, we're not quite sure which, of either mutual aid or automatic aid partners. So, Mr. Mayor, through you and Madam CAO, that is the extent of our report and our presentation. Obviously, we're happy to answer questions as best we can and provide clarification either to staff or members of council. So, Mr. Mayor, back to you.
Okay, thanks very much, gentlemen. I'll open the floor to questions from council. Who wants to go first? Councillor Lamb.
Yeah, thank you, gentlemen. I have several questions, I guess, as I go through this. So I know a little bit about requests for proposals. This is the first time I've come over the term requests for information. So are you suggesting we do both? Like we go out for is that two things or one thing? Or do we go for requests for information first and then see what we find and then go for a proposal? How does that work, I guess, is my first question.
I'm going to defer to Mr. Pernot, who has done most of our heavy thinking on this question. I mean, I have an answer, but John, why don't you go first? And as someone who's been familiar with the apparatus acquisition as a chief yourself.
And you can go either way. So the request for information leads you to a more complete RFP. So yes, you'd be duplicating the work, if you like. The other way to handle it is just to fine tune the RFP. But if you felt you needed more flexibility to actually get into discussion with vendors ahead of time about what's available and that sort of thing, the RFI seems to give you the most flexibility that way. Now, I know your CAO was looking into this with her contacts as well to see what would work best for you. But really, what we're looking for as an outcome is just a very flexible package, doesn't have as many restrictions in it, and it allows for discussion with the vendor that even if they can't meet the exact criteria that you've put down, they can provide an approved alternative if it's approved by you. So that's what we're ultimately looking for
here. Okay, my second question is just inquisitive. What's a turtle tile? I'm a
So,
very non-technical.
Ray,
person.
Ray can get into this. We'll let him give one of these technical answers.
Oh, yeah, I
Good
just want
evening.
a simple answer. What's a turtle tile?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council, staff. Turtle tile is a patented name for a floor covering. It's a very hard piece of interlocking plastic, if you will, that you would sit down on the bottom of your compartment to help prevent damage from the bottom of that compartment when you drop a saw, a fan, or other article that the fire services uses. So it just helps prevents dents and absorbs. It's like a cushion, if you would, but it's a very hard piece of plastic.
Okay, thank
But
you.
the issue is that it's a trademark brand name and it's only available from specific vendors. So as soon as you put that in as a requirement, it limits the number of people that can bid on the RFP.
Okay,
That is
my
correct.
next
And as
question
it was
relates
noted
to our
later,
current, pumper. It's obviously, I don't know, coming on 25 years, I think, or more. It is in good shape. I think there's only 50 some odd thousand kilometers on it. Does it make any sense? Like, I guess my first question would be, what would we ever get for it on a trade? And if it's minimal, would it make any sense for us to move that pumper up to Ardbeg, which is our secondary location, and sort of house it there? I would think we could probably respond better up there quicker if there was a pumper there, but I guess the fire chief could respond to that. But does that make any sense at all, or are we strictly prohibited by all the powers to be from doing that?
It certainly, through you, Mr. Mayor, it certainly doesn't impact the insurance rate discussion because the second station, I mean, regardless of the apparatus, doesn't qualify because there aren't enough firefighters deploying from it. So it becomes more of an operational question and less of an insurance rate, sort of discount capture question. And so I'll defer to my colleagues that might have a thought on that, but we didn't delve deeply into sort of the operational workload on apparatus. It wasn't part of our mandate, but Ray, perhaps you have a point of view on this.
through you, Mr. Mayor, we're very fortunate in our municipality that we were able to retain one of our retired pumps. And the main reason for that was because of the revenue that we would have received for that, for selling it. Unfortunately, although yes, you are correct, very minimal miles on it, very minimal use out of the truck. They are a specialty vehicle that very few people wish to purchase once they come out onto the market, especially when they get to that age. What our municipality did, instead of putting it out onto the market, we actually retained it, and it is now considered a spare truck. In the event one of our primary pumps go down, we have a secondary source that, worst comes to worst, it can still respond and still operate as a pump. As Mr. McDonald had stated, it does not impact upon the insurance rates, however.
Okay. If I may, Mr. Mayor, just go on a bit.
Go ahead.
I don't think this was part of your mandate, but do you, I'm thinking of the request for information and the requests for proposal and all those sorts of things. Could your firm assist us in developing those?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we've had some discussion about this internally, and there are sort of, the short answer is yes. We could help in two ways, one of which would be less expensive and less onerous for the municipality, which is—
We're always looking for the less expensive.
Yeah, if an RFP was developed, we could peer review it for you and give you our sort of 2 cents, our helpful pointers on something specific that was prepared internally. The effort involved in that would be considerably less than us preparing it and executing an RFP on your behalf. I mean, both those things are possible. The first would certainly be less expensive, less onerous for you, well, less onerous for us, more of the workload put on staff. So, we could assist in two ways there, with a peer review after you write it, or these capable gentlemen could write it on your behalf. But
Okay, I just have one final question. You were talking about the financing.
Yes.
And you mentioned 520. I think you got mixed up. I think your model, trying to find it, was financing for 420, was it not? Or did I get that wrong?
Yeah, might have been.
You said, you know, it's
330.
520. I think you were getting the 520, the insurance number mixed up with, because when I look at principal amount, it says 420 at
420.
the bottom of your,
He's right.
is that, so we'd be financing 420, right? You know, and I guess my question
I'm
is,
just looking, let me get to the right page
Yeah.
here. see
yeah, it's
what I-
page, I don't know, on ours here.
Yes, so, yeah, pardon me, and you know what, apologies to council, the red illustration of 520 is me having just made a dumbass mistake.
Yeah, and just
that should
for
be-
clarification, our rate probably closer, this 5%, I think it's so doggone small. Let's say 5% or, yeah.
Actually, sorry, that 520, maybe I'm not wrong here. That 520 is the upper range of what we estimated the insurance discount to be.
Right.
But that 520 is a shaky number. As we said, it's a ranged estimate. You know, you'd be safer assuming, you
No,
know,
my-
savings,
my
annual
point is the
savings
annual
of closer to
interest rate you're
300,000.
using here is 5%, correct?
Yeah, so what we've
Okay.
done is we've debentured $420,000 with the additional, you know, 300 and change, 330,000 coming from the reserve fund contribution. So we debentured 420 at
Manish, is
5%
how
for
much
20
we have
years.
in our reserve? 330?
It's a bit more now.
Our information is you have at least that amount.
I'm just gonna get clarification. I just want to understand.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, Manish will get.
So we
back to you.
started with a truck
I
worth
already
750.
get, with just one other question. I'm sure I live within the 13-kilometer zone. But I got asked on my insurance, I don't know, years ago, I don't remember being asked every year whether there's a fire hall within 5 miles. I remember being asked that and I said, yep, I'm
Yeah.
within 5 miles. So I think, or would I be wrong that I'm getting that discount already? Would that, most people in the municipality would more or less be losing it as opposed to getting it, is my point,
Right.
right? Because I think they're all getting it now anyway, or not all, but certainly a
Yeah.
lot of people, right?
I mean,
Is
anyone
that-
within that 8-kilometer to 13-kilometer zone, if you take 13 as the outer zone, those people are all getting it. And if we don't replace the tanker, if we don't replace the pumper,
lose
excuse me, they lose it. And so, and that loss would soft land at something like, you know, 200 to 300. We took a mid-range of $250 as the annual price of what they'd lose, as opposed to the slight property tax increase that they would experience on their bill for their share of the $33,000 debenture payment.
Okay,
So-
thank you. That's all the questions I have.
Thank you. Councillor Bray.
Good evening, gentlemen. I just have a couple of questions. One is that you're talking about a pump being about $750,000. So I presume then that you reviewed the tender that we did get in, and that price that we had was a very reasonable price. Am I correct?
I'll let John and Ray speak to what is quote reasonable around market values right now. I know in previous work that we've done around you know, forecasting pumper costs, you know, that $750,000 number is a number that we've used in work elsewhere. Maybe right now in the market it's a little higher, maybe a little lower, I'm not sure, but Chief Omara probably has a better sense of the immediate market than I do. I mean, it was a plug
Well,
price.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. We are currently in the process of an RFP for a new pump truck. Originally, when I went to council at the with the market the way that it was, we were told to expect anywhere between 950 to $1 million. I have since then, the market has fluctuated a little bit in our favor. And I have heard from a couple of different manufacturers the possibility of getting them for as low as 800 right at this current time.
Thank you. So that does confirm that the tender that we did receive was a very good price for the pumper, even though it may be that the tender had more specifics in it. What we would be getting for it would be what the fire department requires, and also for a very good price. Am I correct?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, you are correct.
Thank you. My other question is, so you're saying that in really to be able to finance it, which I think Chief Whitman pointed out in one of our other meetings, council meetings that we had, that it would be around $30,000. You're saying $33,000 for a $750 or $750,000 pump. So it's about the same price as what Chief Whitman had already given to council. And you're saying it's about 34,000 is what you're saying, correct?
Yeah, that's a reasonable estimate of a 20-year debenture at 5% for something like $420,000. I mean, if Chief Omurad is right and the apparatus costs $800,000 instead, a slightly higher reserve fund contribution plus a slightly higher debenture might be required, but it's definitely the ballpark. And your own chief's math, he passes the report card on the debenture math here as well. His numbers are definitely in the right ballpark.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
If I might, Mr. Mayor, I have a couple questions if I could go. I'm not sure if anybody else has their hand up, sorry.
No, go ahead, Councillor Nash.
Okay, thank you. Thank you all for doing the presentation tonight. Sorry I couldn't be there in person. I guess I have a couple questions. One of the recommendations, it's probably 4 or 5 questions, but one of the recommendations was in regards to the distance of 250 kilometers for servicing. And I was just looking at this going, if we're a smaller department and we lose that fire truck for some time, I roughly know the distances, but 250 kilometers gets you Sudbury, GTA, for the most part of the GTA, the eastern part of the GTA, North Bay, and all those areas. Why would, if we purchased, say, a fire truck from Quebec City, as an example, why would we want to have it serviced, 750 kilometers away versus 250 kilometers? Where's the benefit there on having downtime and someone having to run down there and stay overnight versus 250 kilometers gives a fairly broad radius already of getting to the GTA for manufacturers?
We did some research, and there was only one fire truck manufacturer within that 250 kilometer range that has a repair facility within that range. So you're limiting yourself to the number of bidders by putting that 250 kilometers in. You're right, it's a balancing act between, how often you're going to send that vehicle off for service of that type, that it's going to require going to the factory versus mobile service. But you have to consider it. If you're more than happy with one response to the RFP, then that's the type of number you put in there.
Okay, thank you. And then I'm just going to go off of something that Councillor Brea just said there. Just on the page you're on there, I see that underneath it says that we had noted, I think, a 2-year warranty for warranties and general warranty instead of a 1 year. But what I understand is out of the tender which we would have received, if you're saying it was a good price, that also would have included a 2-year warranty versus a 1-year warranty. So that would make that number even better, I'm guessing. And then one of the questions I have, I remember the fire chief speaking to us and mentioning that if we didn't do the award at the time, there was going to be an industry-wide, I think it was to do with manufacturing, that 2024 chassis versus 2023 chassis, and just the base price of the chassis are considerably more. I think I remember a number of $50,000 or $75,000. Don't quote me on those numbers, but I'm not sure if one of you can speak to what you guys know about the increase in cost for this new chassis system that would be added to any tender that would be receiving.
I can jump in there if you would like, gentlemen, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Nash. The issue with the chassis manufacturers, and this was a big issue once COVID hit, was you have a couple of major chassis manufacturers that fire departments look at for their commercial vehicles. So for example, you could choose a Freightliner, you could choose an International, and you would want that chassis. The issue is, unless you get your RFP out early, that same chassis could go to become a gravel truck. It could go to become a cement truck. It could go to become a garbage truck. So you're competing with all other industries for that same chassis. And the longer you wait to place your RFP when that set of trucks come out, the less chance you will have to get that specific truck that you're looking for. To answer the second part of that question with regards to the costing of chassis, unfortunately, you are correct. Manufacturers keep increasing the price of chassis, and part and parcel is because they're only producing a limited number. Those chassis are all sold within that year. The other big hurdle that we're going to run across in another couple of years, I cannot remember exactly the year that it comes out. California is coming out with a new Environmental Protection Agency agreement, and we have been told in the fire service to expect upwards of a $50,000 cost just on the, or $25,000, sorry, my apologies, $25,000 cost just on the engine alone because of the new EAP programming that they must meet. Hopefully that answers your question, Councillor Nash.
It does partly. I'll just ask one more part to that question. So what I understood was, I think what you're referring to in a few years, that the manufacturers going from a 2023 chassis, which are no longer available, to 2024 chassis, which would now be on a new RFP, that there was some things to do with, I'll call it engine efficiency, transmissions, emissions, and stuff like that. So there was a jump in the price between 2023 chassis and 2024 chassis over and above your normal inflation cost. Do you know if that is correct?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Nash, we see that on an annual basis, not a huge jump in the fire service. And again, when I say not a huge jump, the one that's coming down the road in, I believe it's 2025 or 2026, for us will be a significant jump in price. But you are correct, as emissions become better and new technologies come out and on stream, the unfortunate aspect is the end user pays the brunt of that. So on an annual basis, we do see generally across the board, the chassis costs going up to some degree.
Okay, thank you very much for answering that question. Now on to my third question. The tanker service, I understand it because I require it where I have another property. And I guess the question I'd have on that is, right now, because there is no fire hydrants on that chart, the second on the pyramid was the accredited tanker service 365 days a year. And then the third one was within 3 to 8 kilometers. If we were to get the shuttle service, would that be an additional savings to the people within the 13 kilometers over and above what they're already getting? Maybe it's another $50 savings or something. And certainly that would catch people outside of the 13 kilometers, but how would that help the people within the 13 kilometers already, if that makes sense?
It would, through you, Mr. Chairman, or Mr. Mayor, excuse me, it would deepen the discount that they already receive. So if the average discount that they're receiving right now is about $250 per household for being within 8 to 13 kilometers of a hall with 15 firefighters, there'd be a marginal increase in their discount. I would hesitate to sort of put a hard number on it, but it would certainly be measurable and significant.
Yeah, we do have a number. The insurance companies that we talked to told us it'd be an additional 5 to 8% on the insurance savings.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much, everybody. And then getting to close to the end of my questions. I know there's a lot, when you'd gone through, when we speak to some of the parts that were on it, like I think one of them was about the siding or a roll up door versus where was it here? The angles or the hose bed, this black turtle tiles or the left side body compartments, all that kind of stuff. From what I understand, if I'm correct, and I think it's really just a simple answer, is when the fire chief was making the tender and putting it together, we were going for more of a custom built, smaller fire truck or smaller pumper than what might be in downtown Toronto. Something that would work better on, I'm guessing, some smaller roads, have some things in that we're used to. And for something like a hose bed that says black turtle ties, if on a tender you simply put or approved equal, would help a lot, right? In many instances, approved equal means a lot of stuff. People will submit a bid and say it's not black turtle ties, it's red turtle ties or whatever, right? But they're an approved equal, right? So adding that word, just approved equal, might help on a lot of these items. Am I correct on that?
You're right. And remember that we weren't questioning what was put into that spec. We were looking for ways to get you more responses to your RFP.
Okay.
So that there was nothing to say that black turtle tile was wrong. It was just something that was a limiting feature.
Yeah. Okay. And just going off of that, and then after I ask this one, there's one last one. In smaller municipalities that need smaller trucks, again, not downtown Toronto, that is probably, very standard equipment, I'll call it, big pumpers. What might you expect? Because I know when the fire chief had spoken to us in the past, it seemed like many or several other municipalities might have received one bid or two bids or had to re-put it out because they hadn't received a bid. Is that about normal for smaller municipalities putting together a smaller custom built truck, that you're not going to get very many bids on something like that? Am I probably correct?
Ray, do you want to answer that, or?
Yeah, it's like I can jump in here. Mr. Mayor, through you to Councillor Nash. Our municipality is somewhat smaller, 14,000 residents within our municipality. I think I understand what you're trying to say with regards to a smaller truck. They're also, with the smaller municipalities, we have to give consideration to the amount of water that we can carry as well, because we may need to utilize the water on that truck for a longer period of time. Toronto, for example, would have a lot more storage compartments than they would a water tank because it's not needed. In our rural settings, we require a little bit larger water tank, if you will. So I don't believe looking for a smaller vehicle was the main focus to the lack of feedback that you got from it. Everyone out there is looking to make a sale. I think, as we had spoken here, maybe just loosening up some of those parameters. And Councillor Nash, as you said, in the top line there where it talks about the hose bed and the turtle tiles, it was suggested for a number of areas to put or an accepted alternative, right? An acceptable alternative. That allows the manufacturers to say, we do not have A, which you would like, but we have B that would be fairly close to that. They could then submit that to you, and then your committee would review that to see if it was acceptable to them. And I think that may help elicit some more tenders for you. And understanding you're in a remote area as well, unfortunately, that does cause some limitations too. Thank you.
Perfect. And perfect. Thank you. And then my final question is, in regards to the funding, I know you said a 20-year loan debenture, and using some of our reserves. I think currently we have about, I'm just looking at our reserve draft for 2023, and I think it's just over 300,000 that we have in the reserves for the at the end of this year for the pumper truck. I know I'll say something just on the budget. I know you know, I'd suggested that we put a lot more in that reserve this year, but if we have another year or two before the pumper's there, I'm assuming you guys will probably nod your heads and say anything that we can put in over in 2024 or the start of 2025 as an additional reserve contribution, even if they're large contributions, will make a big impact on that debenture. And I think at the end, you know, because the interest rates are so high, I think it would be prudent as us, as a municipality, to try and pay this off as quick as we can and get those reserves built up as much as we can before the delivery date. Would that make sense in a general statement?
As a former municipal finance professional, I have a point of view. The debenture provides funding fairness across 2 decades, that people that move into the municipality, that people who live here for a long time will pay equally or pay fairly, if you will, across the life of the asset. So debt in this case is not a bad thing. The debenture is an appropriate, fair funding tool. The precise balance of the debenture versus the reserve fund draw is it's a bit of a gray area. I mean, you can pay now or you can pay later. The interest rate exposure question is an interesting one. And if anyone in the room knows what interest rates are going to look like in the next 5 years, I suspect we leave this room and go get very rich very quickly. So it's difficult to forecast. But what we do know about a debenture, about a 20-year debenture, is once you establish an interest rate, it will be constant through the life of the debenture. And that 5% forecast rate, I talked that around a little bit with some finance professionals before I did this, and this is a prudent number. So, the council has some discretion here about whether about how to use any marginally available dollar in your budget, whether you should be making a reserve contribution, then drawing it down, or dealing with other priorities. I'm sure the CAO and the treasurer have thoughts about that they'll be sharing through the budget cycle. But I mean, the mechanics are clear. Higher reserve fund draw means a lower total amount to debenture, and therefore a lower debenture payment over time. It's really a question of balance about where you want to land.
Okay, thank you so much for listening and answering to my questions. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Councillor Woods, any questions, comments?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. So I guess we've got our final answer. We need to buy a new fire truck. Right? Either way, we're buying one. We're just gonna figure out how we're gonna pay for it now.
We would recommend, Councillor, that as soon as possible, you execute an RFP and that you go out and buy either a new replacement pumper or a demo that has lots of the 20-year life cycle intact, so you can continue to protect those insurance rate discounts. And so, yeah, we see that as an unambiguous, clear recommendation that that's an appropriate thing to do to re-up the 20 years of availability to protect those discounts and to continue to provide consistent deployable emergency response out of the principal hall when it's required.
The tanker shuttle service, what would that cost us? I'm sure we can't get it free, right? Like, there's got to be some sort of cost for everything nowadays.
I think through the mayor, and again, Chief Omurad or John can, I'll just reply very quickly. It's not a question of cost, it's a question of the critical mass of apparatus pieces that you would need to implement that, and then need to collaborate and cooperate with your neighbors, because there's simply no way that you're going to go out and buy the requisite apparatus to run this as a Whitestone only option. You need to pool resources, share resources with your neighbors to create the critical mass of apparatus that you would need to do a tanker shuttle certification.
And I think Ray can
If I can,
yeah.
yeah, if you don't mind, through you, Mr. Mayor. We did a tanker shuttle in certification in 2022, actually last October, 1 year ago. And there are two companies that I'm aware of that will provide you the certification. One is Fire Underwriters, and the other is Fire Protection Services. I believe both. I know that Fire Underwriters, if you go to their website, you can actually download what the requirements are to be able to perform the tanker shuttle. And there are two categories, one residential at 200 imperial gallons a minute, the other being a commercial at 400 gallons per minute. And we actually went out and practiced this first to see whether or not we could come close to accomplishing it. We did the practice. We were fairly confident that we would be able to meet the commercial. So we requested to do the commercial test. And at the time, don't hold me to it, but I believe it cost the municipality $2,100. But that number rings a bell in my head, but I'm not exactly sure. Thank you.
Does that answer your question? Or
Yeah,
did-
yeah, kind of helps. So if we do recommendation package number one, we have to do that regardless, and then the shutter tanker certification is just like a complete optional. We don't even really have to look at it. But it'd be a good idea to go through the exercise to take a look at it.
That's correct. Our sense is it's worth exploring whether you can deepen that insurance rate discount by climbing that pyramid that Mr. Pernod explained.
And the reason we've worded it in the manner that we have is our understanding has always been that you have to be tanker shuttle certified, you have to use your own resources to provide that tanker shuttle. And we've discovered that one of your neighbors is using a different method to meet that shuttle certification. It's not something we've ever seen anywhere else. So we think it's worthwhile investigating to see if it'll work. We're not so sure that it meets all the criteria, but it's worth the investigation.
Okay, just one more, Mr. Mayor. I think it's for our fire chief. Has the municipality or the fire department ever looked at the shutter or the tanker shuttle certification program in the past?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, we looked at that about 6 or 7 years ago, and council actually turned it down at the time.
You remember why?
No, I don't. I'd have to look up the paperwork, but they turned it down, so I'm not sure why.
Chief Omerod, can you comment on when you went through your test at Central Elgin, how many pieces of apparatus were involved in your your practice simulation? If you recall, because I know it's more than two.
It is. We used one pump, obviously, as the main pump. And then we had four. I have the access to 3 tankers and 1 pumper tanker. So we had all of those attend. And within 10 minutes, I was sending one of them home because of the fact that we were so far ahead of it. And we were doing the commercial at 400 imperial gallons a minute. The residential component the requirement was only 200 imperial gallons a minute.
So when we speculate a little bit about Whitestone's neighbors and a collaborative approach, I mean, Whitestone certainly isn't going to be able to muster the apparatus to do this solo, but our sense was that it's a realistic scenario to explore, that with an interested and motivated partner, that, you know, the requisite number of pieces of apparatus to sort of achieve that 200-gallon standard is something worth sort of serious consideration. Now that we know you can partner with others and sort of, you know, upgrade your capacity that way. So I just want
Sorry
to
to
encourage council to recognize that this is I mean, if the previous attempt was, well, no, we don't have enough of our own resource to do this ourselves, so we're not interested. What we now know is there is a wrinkle where you don't have to supply all the muscle here. You can join forces with another fire department and collectively perhaps generate the number of units required to secure this benefit for both municipalities. It's a possible service sharing win-win, and we think it's worthy of consideration.
Sorry to butt in here. I just had a question as Councillor Nash, if I might. With the retirement, I'll call it, of the existing pumper, if we were to keep that, we'd end up having, I think, 3 apparatuses. Maybe the fire chief, if he's still at the podium, can answer that. So if we replaced the pumper with a new pumper, kept the old pumper, along with the other fire truck, which I'm not sure the name of it, and we had 3 pieces of equipment that attend to fire, we might not be too far off on that requirement already. Am I correct or totally wrong? Sorry to cut in.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Nash. Depending on a couple of different factors, A would be the tank size of that, we'll call it the retired pump. And secondly is the distance you would have to go to your water source, that being whether it's a stream, a lake, a hydrant, whatever the case might be. So there are some factors that come into play with that.
I guess your point, Chief Omrad, it's not a static exercise. It has to be able to be flexible based on the circumstances that are presented in the test scenario. So you need to think about having excess capacity as opposed to thinking that you can just sort of perfectly soft land at a capacity number that is sort of, quote, right.
Okay.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor, were you asking that question of me, Councillor Nash? Or somebody else?
Yes, I was, Fire Chief Whitman, just on what I was asking everybody kind of, but what the size of our tanks would be for the 3 pieces of equipment, and maybe that would help answer it for the others that are doing the presentation as well, would help fill that in.
Yeah, so if we kept that truck and we have a mutual aid agreement with both McKellar, Magnetowan, and McDougall for the Bunny Trail. If we brought in McDougall's pumper and tanker, we'd probably be pretty close to meeting that. We'd have to try it and see, but we probably wouldn't be far off.
Okay, thanks. So, okay, Manish has got the amount that's in the reserve for the truck.
I just want, through you, Mayor, I just want to confirm we have 300,000 in a reserve, pumper reserve around approximately.
Manish, yeah, and who knows what the interest rate will be in 2025, I assume, when we get this truck. But this is eligible for funding from the province.
Yeah, we can get a debenture for the fire trucks.
And the current rate through the province is closer to 7%, right?
Correct.
Not 5%.
It's a prime is 5.5% and bank charges 2% on top. It is 7.25 with the bank. And debenture rate, I'm not sure. I can get back to you on that.
The province is how much?
Bank, the prime rate is 5%, like a Bank of Canada rate.
Oh, yeah.
And on top, the bank charge 2.25%.
So it's not, and again, maybe it is 5% 2 years from now, but right now, if we were doing this transaction, it would be 7%.
7%.
Or
Correct.
7.25, right?
Correct.
Right.
Right. So by way of explanation, you know, I consulted with some experts about interest rate forecasts and what those rates might look like 2 years from now. And that was some of the rationale behind the 5%. We didn't make a mechanical error in what the current rate is. We attempted to forecast what a reasonable rate would be 18 months out.
I'm sure there's hundreds of thousands of homeowners that would hope that your rate is right.
My son. So you're right. The interest rate part, I mean, it's a scenario, members of council. And it's a simulation, and the actual information at the point of debenture decision will no doubt be in some way different from our scenario. It was meant to create an order of magnitude understanding of what you might be facing as a debenture.
So let me ask one final question, Councillor Lamb. So based on what I've heard tonight, there may be people that are thinking this, why the heck don't we just forget about going through all this and just go back and call the people that gave us the quote 6 months ago and say, you still got that truck? And if you do, we'll take it at 750,000. I suspect the truck's long sold. But if they said, yeah, we'd still do that deal. Convince me why we wouldn't do that and save all the trouble of going out 6 months and spending more money and that sort of thing. Can someone help me with that? I mean, in other words, are you going to save us more money if we wait? Or are we just going to be ending up spending more? Or are we going to spend up more anyway? Right. So that's what I'm getting.
Mr. Mayor, I would notice that our recommendation is replace the existing pumper as soon as possible. And if there was a scenario where an attractive price, where the as soon as possible attractive price for an appropriately functional vehicle with 20 years of life cycle in it was available, that would seem to be a prudent and logical course of events. It's a giant assumption to assume the vehicle is still available, but if it were consistent with as soon as possible, that would be an avenue worth serious exploration.
So would that say that we would go out for a request for information, develop some specs, and then make some telephone calls to the various manufacturers and say, what do you have? And what can we get really quick or whatever? Go that sort of method, or am I missing something?
The RFI creates an opportunity for interested potential respondents to an RFP to enter into conversation, and you can learn lots of things in that conversation about available stock, about some of the customizable questions or issues that you had in mind, and most importantly, get a feel for how many interested participants there's going to be. All of this has assumed that you would have to go to market again. We did actively engage in the assumption that the previous piece of apparatus or the previous supplier still had that piece of apparatus around. If that hypothetical assumption were true, I mean, it seems to me that would be a road worth considering.
Well, in fairness, our getting you involved had more to do that we didn't know a lot of the answers, right, on used trucks and our various options. So we wanted to run those down to make sure that we had all the cards on the table before we made a decision. And yes. I think your work has been very good, by the way, and well worth it, particularly when we're looking at essentially over $1 million with interest. This is a big decision for a little community like ours. So I thank you for that, but it's still your recommendation that we go to whatever RFP or RFI or whatever.
Our assumption in making that recommendation, Councillor, through the mayor to you, we didn't consider a perhaps unlikely scenario that the previous vehicle was still available or that the previous vendor was still able to, quote, as it was put on the discussion here, cut a deal. We assumed that you would need to start again from a clean slate, and we proceeded on that basis.
So it would be possible for us to make a call to that one vendor and see if that exact spec, which there's nothing wrong with the spec. You're saying it may have caused others to maybe not bid, but there's nothing fundamentally wrong with the quote that was out there, right? I mean, it meets what our fire chief thinks he needs, and there's nothing fundamentally wrong with it, is there?
Ray, I believe that to be the case, but again, I think our assessment was that it was a solid assessment of need, and we're just sort of helping refine some of the details.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thanks. I just have a couple of comments and a question now. Just in response to the the information about what we have in reserves, that caused me to make the comment that in terms of the effect on the municipal budgets for the next 20 years, it's not simply a case of debenturing what we have to spend to buy the current, to make the current purchase, but we also have to put back into reserves so that we're not in this situation that we're in now in 20 years with not having the whole amount we need in the reserves. So if you look at how much money has to be set aside year upon year for the next 20 years, there's another component, which is putting money into the reserve that has to be added to what's already in the analysis. Anyway, the second comment I was going to make, I took a look at your analysis in terms of how many properties we have, and I think you're likely that are in fact benefiting from this proximity to the fire station and so on. I think that's pretty generous. The folks who would be getting any discount are the ones who are in the Dunchurch area, around Whitestone Lake and around Dunchurch, I have a question that's going to come out of this, but the folks who are farther away, folks who are on the sort of west side or north side of the municipality, Ardbeg and so on, people like me, for example, we're in the the group that gets we're considered no fire protection, right? And we don't have as many households as you think we do. I don't know whether it's because they're vacant lots or just how that number came out. So, I mean, having said all of that, that doesn't change my mind that we do in fact need to replace the pumper truck. I'm not, so I don't really want to dwell on that, but I don't think the argument is based on who's going to lose their rate discount. But I do have a question about that. My question is, how do the underwriters know who is entitled to this discount, and particularly if we were to do the tanker shuttle business, how would they know about that? Because they don't ask when you apply for insurance, they don't ask you that. They do exactly what Councillor Lamb said earlier. They say, how close are you to a hydrant? And the answer is 0, because we don't have any hydrants, at least not wet ones. and how close are you to a manned fire station? And it's typically the 8 miles is what I've seen for most of my lifetime. They don't ask, do you have a shuttle service? So my question is, how do they get that information?
So, Mr. Mayor, through you to yourself, let me start with the mapping question, and I'll be very quick on it because you're right. So the reason you see that large range for the annual insurance rate discount is because we are dealing with uncertainty from the mapping data that your staff were able to supply about exactly how many of those municipal addresses or how many of those MPAC roll numbers were, you know, real buildings with real insurance policies stapled on their door. And you know, so let me be clear, sir, it's not 2088. We know that for a fact. And so when you look at this range, even if you go to the bottom end of the range to get a lower error rate in how many roll numbers actually have insurance, you still end up with, you know, well over $200,000 worth of annual rate insurance savings versus the $37,000 in the debenture. It's just a question of how big a slam dunk this is financially. And so, but you're right, there's a soft range here because the data we had on mapping was imprecise. So you're absolutely correct about that. So that was the first question. On the second question, it's my understanding that fire underwriters or fire protection services have databases where they are maintaining information about the risk profiles in these various jurisdictions. This is how they make a living. They make a living selling this information to insurance companies, not just selling accreditations to municipalities. So they are in a middleman situation where information is power, and it's moving in both directions. So the insurance companies are knowledge-seeking creatures, and these are the firms that they get that information on to understand the risk profiles in municipalities.
And where
Okay,
where
well,
they
thank
seek
you.
their- I was going to say where they seek their most knowledge is when they're
I have
actually-
just a question that came up in the discussion about the maintenance. I was going to ask our fire chief, so where do we get the existing pumper serviced?
Mechanically, it goes to Dean in Magnetawan, like brakes, mufflers. A fire body goes to Carrier, and the pump goes to Carrier, fire pump.
And they are where? Like, where do you have to take?
Brampton.
Oh, in Brampton. Are they still there?
Yeah.
They had a huge facility in Brampton that they closed, but they had, it's probably a different one. They made air conditioners.
Yeah, no, these guys
Yeah,
don't build
okay.
air conditioners,
Yeah.
they fix fire trucks.
Yeah, okay, thank you. The only other thing, I noticed you commented earlier that NFPA had some standards on the useful life of a pumper. Is it different from the fire underwriter survey? And I guess where I'm really, why am I asking the question? I'm just wondering if it takes us, in fact, a year or more to get this truck replaced. Is there any risk that somehow in the meantime people are going to say, well, your vehicle's too old, we're going to, maybe that is related to my last question, but is it likely that any insurance companies are going to become aware of this and start raising it, start trying to change people's risk categories?
John, why don't you comment on our experience in Kawartha Lakes when we entered into direct dialogue with fire protection services and talk to them about the plan there?
I was going to say our experience is that as long as you're making an effort towards compliance, so you've got a truck on order, they're quite aware of the issues with acquiring vehicles right now and what the long delays are. It's just if you make a conscious decision that you're not going to replace the truck, that's going to affect their report to the insurance industry. But the fact that you purchased the truck and are waiting for its arrival will not generally affect your rating.
Okay, thank you for that. So is there anything else before we move to our next item? Councillor Bray.
Well, I was just going to say that that's exactly what Chief Whitman pointed out to us in the original, his original report, was that he was in discussions with the underwriters to let them know that we were in the process of hopefully getting a new pumper. So I think that's a good sign.
Okay, thank you. If there's nothing else, I do want to thank our presenters for answering all of these questions and for your report, and we will come back and deal with the subject when we have a couple of planning items to do first, and then we'll come back and try to get some resolution on how we're going to move forward. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good evening to you and members of council.
Thank you.
So now the next items that we have are, as I said, our planning items. We don't have, are we expecting Mr. Jackson? Oh, he's here. Very good. So let's just, without further ado, 5.2.1 is a consent application from the Ewens. John, do you want to?
Certainly, the application from the Ewings is quite, I suppose, unique from many applications. It is a case where it involves 3 properties in the Ewan family that they wish to actually reconsolidate into 2 properties. They want to do that specifically because the middle property is a long-standing beach that the family enjoys. So Jack and Inga, who own 2 small lots, the left lot has their cottage, the right lot was created many, many decades ago, is vacant. And the sister in the family controls what's called the mother's cottage property. And because there's a likelihood that the properties may get separated, and then the Ewings have enjoyed the beach amongst the family members, they wanted to reconfigure it in a fashion that preserved the beach in control of John and Inga. And so they are prepared to give up the vacant lot, consolidate them with the beach off the sister's lot, and actually reduce the density by 1 lot. So there will be a case where they're going to reconfigure the lot. So one will end up with 77 meters and one will be 70 meters, but they will reduce the number of lots from 3 to 2. And in the world of lake planning, there tends to be a general principle that less is better. So even though these won't comply with the strict standards for controlling density, the density will actually be reduced. So I think this is a good planning move. They'll simply have to fulfill a number of conditions to get around the performance standards in the municipality zoning bylaw. So I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Just for clarity, is the vacant lot is the one in the middle?
Yes. It's the one that is 23 meters of frontage.
Yeah, 22 minutes. So you really couldn't do anything with it anyway, am I right? As it
No,
is?
you could, yes, you could. You could build a dwelling on it.
Well, yeah, I guess 60 feet, 30
Yeah,
meters, 90 feet.
Narrow building.
Yeah,
What's the
If-
side setbacks for a house?
I believe they're like 5 meters.
yeah, no, you're right. I'm sorry. I'm looking at that 22, but yeah, thinking, oh, gosh, but yeah, it's,
There are 3 building lots
Okay.
there now,
Yeah.
and it's going to result in 2 building lots only.
in 2 building lots, yeah.
If I might, Mr. Mayor, I'm not sure if others have their hands up or not.
No, you can go ahead. Councillor
Uh,
Nash.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. John, thanks for your presentation. I guess a couple things. Currently, right now, I'm looking at your report, lot number 3 or parcel number 3. Currently, that does meet the requirements of 100 meters of frontage and 0.6 acres. It looks like it's 0.66 acres, so it kind of meets the existing standards. The parcel number 3, if I'm correct, right?
Yes.
Okay. For parcels 1 and 2, I know one shows I'm rounding frontage of 24.7 meters, and the other one shows 22.9 meters. If they were just to combine those 2 lots together, that would give them a frontage of about 46 meters and an area of about 0.25 of a hectares. But if that was done, they'd get the beach like they're wanting, but that would be a fairly adequate building lot of 45 meters, 150 feet, give or take, 140 feet. And I guess my question is, I'm not sure why, I can totally understand merging parcel 1 and 2 and giving 40 plus meters of frontage, but I don't understand why we would want to sever off 20 something meters on parcel number 3 to all of a sudden make parcel 3 non-conforming as well. So I'm a little confused on that one. I totally understand the merging of the 2, but not taking away from the 3rd lot to make it too small. And I guess in everything I see, especially on Lake Washkesh, everybody's always talking about wanting to increase the frontage amounts, not decrease an existing lot. And I'm sure if it was other lakes and we said, oh, we'll allow 70-meter lots to be created, we'd hear a lot of response to that. So I guess I asked a couple questions there. And my final question would simply be, was the Lake Association notified of this from happening? Because I don't see any correspondence in the file for it. And also just in the recommendations, I don't see, and I'm sure you'll have a very good explanation to this, but I don't see any parkland dedication fee being suggested. So the way it is now, I personally find it hard to support, but maybe if you don't mind answering a few of those questions, Sean, would be great. Thank you very much.
So there are 3 lots in this development stretch of the lake now. That is 3 building lots. Therefore, you would have a full dwelling and accessory or ancillary uses. This proposal is being generated to recognize that while they're small lots, the family would like to control the beach. So in order to do so, because there's a concern that the point lot, which is developed as the mother's cottage and now controlled by the sister, if that should ever leave the family, they would lose the beach. And the beach is a pretty important amenity to the grandchildren and extended family members who are on other properties in this area. The issue of standards isn't the driving force here. What's the driving force is the density. And the density is being reduced from 3 building lots to 2, so that it has a lot of merit, and that merit is somewhat compromised by the 3 building lots, but they're prepared to drop one of the building lots, which I think is good planning for the bay and the lake. The association was notified, as is the protocol for Wawashkesh and other lakes. Because you are reducing the number of lots, not creating more demand on parkland, you're actually reducing the demand. So it wouldn't be appropriate to ask for parkland. So with the conditions, this, in our opinion, represents something that I believe would be something positive for Wawashkesh.
Thank you, John.
about the parkland dedication? Excuse me, through you, Mr. Mayor, I think Councillor Nash asked about the parkland.
He commented, again.
Oh, okay, I was reading there. I'm sorry. What was the answer?
He said,
I'm sorry.
I could let you repeat. You said basically it was, you didn't feel that the parkland dedication fee was appropriate because in fact, we're not creating a lot, we're reducing, we're removing a lot.
That's correct.
Okay,
Anyway, are there other,
that's just, excuse me, through you, Mr. Mayor, that's just a call by you, John?
Oh, no, it's not necessarily a call, but if you are creating new developments, you are creating new demands for recreational purposes. If you are reducing the amount of development, you are reducing the amount of recreational demands. So it's not something that you could actually ask for, in my opinion, with respect to the intent of the legislation.
Okay, I'm glad you added the last sentence. Thank you.
so just if I might ask, I'm looking at the diagram, which is on page 5 of your report. And I can see what I think is happening here, but it looks like the part to the north, which has the 2 smaller lots in it right now, actually becomes bigger than the retained portion. But I don't see what the frontage would be of the. I mean, essentially, there's when all of this happens, what would the frontage of the 2 parts be?
Well, the frontage of the 2 parts, which are about 21 and 23 meters respectively, would be doubled, and then you would add further frontage for the beach. So you would end up with a lot with about 70 meters frontage. And then the sisters, or the former mother's cottage, would be 77 meters.
77.1. So we're adding 20.7, 23, and 26 to make one
Correct.
lot, and then what's left is 77.1. Is that the frontage?
Correct.
And I guess you could. Okay, all right. So I guess you could add it up. How many?
Yeah, so you'd end up
All
with
right.
about
Yeah, I
you'd-
see.
there'd be about
Yeah.
two lots that are 230 and 250 feet frontage.
Okay, are there other questions or comments from councilors? All right, if there aren't, then I guess we could move on to the next one, which is this is the merit application to add a piece of his retained lot to a subdivision lot, correct?
Yes, so this is a simple lot addition that generally don't provoke any particular planning issues. His motivation is to enhance the lot's amenities and qualities for sale. So while he controls both, he wants to add this 1.25 acres at the rear of the property for essentially increasing the size of the property and potentially controlling privacy in the rear portion of the property. So we don't see any particular downside to this application.
Okay, thank you. If I can just add, just have a couple of questions. With this one, was this application circulated to in particular, I'm concerned about the folks who own the other adjacent properties that are part of that subdivision.
We
And did
circulate,
and I'm asking, did we receive any comments of any kind from them? Because I would hate to see this go through and then have a whole bunch of delegations from folks saying, wait a minute, this is.
we circulate, as I indicated in the previous application, in accordance with the municipality's request to the association, who send, I believe, a post out to their members, and in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act, we circulate to neighboring property owners.
So all of the people who can I assume that all of those, you'll see there are well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, there's about 7 or 8 lots in that subdivision. Would they all
Yes,
have got it?
all the lands that abut the back lot would have gotten it, yes.
Okay. And we didn't hear anything from anybody about it.
Not a word.
Okay. Well, thank you. That's questions or comments from members of council. Councillor Bray.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. John, I was just wondering if that addition affects the trail that is going on the back behind the lots? And does it affect anybody's access to their lots?
Through you, your worship, it will not affect anybody's access. In fact, we've added a requirement that those lot addition, that lot addition recognizes the existing trail through it.
Thank you.
So those sorry, just following on to that question, if I may, that those easements that go across the, what I'll call the back lot, the back property, if assuming there are easements, there's a road there, right?
There are no easements.
So there are no easements at all. But do people have rights? Do any of those people have rights to access their properties using that road or not?
I understand they have unregistered rights, yes. Through agreements between them and Mr. Merritt.
So, yeah, and are you saying that they would have to, those then I realize they're not easements in a legal sense, but those rights would have to be applied against this new property, because we're changing where the road right now is going through the retained lands, and now it's going to go through this particular lot that Mr. Merritt's lot that's being enlarged, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I just want to make sure. Anybody else have any questions or concerns about this one? All right. We have one more, the Greenwoods. You want to go ahead, John?
This is actually not one of my files. I think Paula had an update of some sort, but I wasn't.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right.
I wasn't privileged to understand the background here, so I need to turn it over to Paula.
Sorry, Paula, I should have noticed that. The floor is yours.
For you, Mr. Mayor, this is a severance that was started in 2002 between with Ted and Karen Greenwood. So the end of this severance, we're supposed to do a consent agreement. We received parkland dedication fees. The applicant has received the 911 addressing which was on Greenway Lane. Sorry. So now the next step is entering into a section 5126 consent agreement with respect to the private right-of-way, and also to acknowledge the proposed lot 1 complies with the 15-meter of frontage outside of the type 1 fish habitat. That's about it.
Okay, so this is really to authorize the consent agreement, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so questions or comments on this? The consent agreement is attached and
Consent agreements on page 73.
got an environmental report and so on. Okay, I'm hearing none, so I think
Sorry,
that,
Mr. Mayor,
oh,
I was
sorry.
being
Councillor
kind when
Nash.
I was being kind when I hadn't spoken up. I was waiting to see if anybody else had anything to say first.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I guess I just have a couple questions, and one of them actually came up based on the discussion on the RFP of the fire truck tonight, actually. So I think it's a great opportunity to ask this question. I wanted to ask it earlier, but I totally forgot. So on page 74 of 148, under part C, item 8, under access on the agreement, it reads, the owners hereby acknowledge and understand that the municipality may not be able to provide emergency services to the subject lands accessed by the private road. So I started thinking about this when I was reading the RFP earlier today, and or the report on the RFP. And I guess my question is, and I wish I'd asked it earlier, I just totally forgot. If we're saying on title, and this is a document that's registered, and we're saying there's a chance that the fire department or emergency services, if you have a heart attack or something, can't attend the site. And let's say a building was to burn down and the insurance company finds out this is on title, and let's say in this case, Mr. and Mrs. Greenwood didn't tell their insurance company about this on title, I could see this becoming a very big legal issue going forward. And I guess if the fire chief is still in the room, hopefully he is.
He's
I guess
not, unfortunately.
okay, too bad.
He just got called out.
All right, I was gonna ask the question of, I thought if I had, say, a heart attack and I was in the middle of a lake or hunting 10 kilometers, or whatever, north of Bolger Lake, that the fire department emergency services would do anything in their power to come and assist, be it by ATV, by Argo, by snowmobile, by boat. And I'm assuming that would be the same if there was a fire on a water access property or wherever it might be. So I guess I'm bringing, and maybe Councillor Bray can answer some of those questions in the absence of in the absence of the fire chief, just on the side of, I'm assuming whenever there's a 911 call regarding a location, regardless of the road or something, we always make a best effort to get there. So I'm wondering if maybe number 8 going forward should actually be scratched off our agreements, because it could lead to a very large legal problem for the property owners and insurance prices. So it's more of food for thought, and I'd like to see it removed based on what I was hearing about insurance rates and tanker services and uninsurable lots or no coverage in spots. And then my simple second question was simply, I know we had this agreement in front of us, and I guess I just wanted to make sure that the Greenwoods had had time to review this agreement before it's before us, that's all.
For you,
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, yes, the Greenwoods have reviewed the agreement along with their lawyer.
Perfect, great.
Okay, this is a standard condition with respect to a limited service property, which is there to protect the municipality, but I'm going to ask Councillor Bray to respond to your question about what actually happens if the owners of that property were to place a 911 call. Councillor Bray.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. The fire department does their best effort to respond to every call that comes in. We have to review our resources, we have to review where we're going, and we have to figure out what is the best resource for each and every call that we go on. So again, yes, sometimes we have to use our boat, sometimes we use our Argo, sometimes our snowmobile. Sometimes we use other people's equipment if they are willing. And sometimes we take, if it's a fire and we can't take the pumper in, then we will use portable pumps and use the water sources that are available. We just have to, we have to review each one to see what resources are best used and which ones will work. That's all. But we do our best effort.
Okay, thank you. Does that help?
Yes, it does, Mr. Mayor. I was just saying, you know, it would be an item that I think I'd like to ask if we could remove. I don't know why we have to have it on there. I think if we're always going to make a best effort, I think that would be the same case. Like if I look at Lorimer Lake Road or Shawanaga Lake Road, those are roads owned by the municipality. And I'm sure the cottagers on those roads don't have an agreement that says this. And in the wintertime, if somebody's using those cottages, the road's not plowed, it's not a four-season road, and the fire department would go in via snowmobile or Argo or however they might get down it. So I think, and this is for the Greenwoods, but all going forward, I think number 8 should be scratched out, and I'd ask that please be scratched out if we could, when we get to the next section for passing it. That's all.
Well,
Okay, Councillor Lamb, do you want to?
yeah, well, I would not support that. This protects the municipality. And it would be a huge error, in my opinion, to take it out. But having said that, Carby-Huey Lane is actually owned by the municipality. That's a road allowance from Canning that goes down to where there are a couple cottages, and then you turn right into what we named a couple months ago, I think Greenwood Lane, if I'm not mistaken. And what that is, Councillor Nash, from there is it's really a driveway, okay? And that, I would call it a driveway now. And it goes behind the Carby-Huey, the cottage that's named Carby-Huey, and between that and Wilson Lake, which is right behind it, and that goes down to the lots in question. So we may not be able to have our fire services go to those lots because they're not even developed yet or sold at this point. And I think the municipality needs some protection that the owners acknowledge that in the agreement. So I will not be supportive of taking it out when we get to that. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. If there's nothing else, can we get a motion, mover and seconder, please, to reconvene into a regular meeting? Councillor Lamb moves and Councillor Woods seconds. We call the question, please.
Thank you. Councillor Bray,
Yes.
Councillor Lamb,
Yes.
Councillor Nash,
Yes.
Councillor Woods,
Yes.
Mayor Comrie.
Yes.
Thank you. The time is 8:31 and we are in regular meeting again.
Okay, thank you. matters arising from committee of the whole. The first one is the pumper truck replacement. There is a suggested motion. I will read it and see if we can get a mover and seconder. So it's got a number of parts to it, but anyway, whereas the municipality of Whitestone contracted Performance Concepts Consulting for the purpose of undertaking a cost benefit analysis in respect of a proposed bumper truck replacement. And whereas Performance Concepts Consulting presented their report, findings and recommendations to the council of the municipality of Whitestone at the regular council meeting of October 17th, 2023. Now therefore be it resolved that the council of the municipality of Whitestone receive for information the Performance Concepts Consulting report dated October 2023, and that the existing pumper truck be replaced as soon as possible with a new or demonstration unit pumper truck through a new / revised procurement process. And 3, that the municipality of Whitestone consider adopting a hybrid funding approach for the new / demonstration pumper truck that includes a robust reserve contribution plus a 20-year debenture. And 4, that the fire chief be requested to review and consider the implementation of the recommended technical specifications in a new request for proposal procurement as noted in the above referenced Performance Concepts Consulting report. And 5, that the municipality of Whitestone fire chief actively review the feasibility of a tanker shuttle certification at the primary fire station, similar to other West Parry Sound municipalities who currently have implemented tanker shuttle certification. And such as McKellar, the municipality of McDougall, Carling Township, and Seguin Township, making use of a collaborative model with an adjacent fire service partner, mutual aid model, or automatic aid model approach to mustering the required number of pumpers / tankers. And 6, that the municipality of Whitestone fire chief report to council by Q3, third quarter of 2024, with a tanker shuttle certification action plan. Would someone like to move that? Councillor Woods.
can move that,
Is there
Mr.
a
Mayor.
seconder?
I can move that, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Nash. It's moved and seconded. Discussion. Councillor Woods.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I look at this and I think there's too many parts to it. I think we should stop it at number 2 and vote on that. And then the rest we could deal with. We don't have to necessarily make a decision on it right now, but they could be all dealt with separately. Either way, we know we're gonna buy a truck, right? To get the rest of the information, I don't know if we'd all have to do it in this motion and vote on it right now.
All right, so you're asking essentially to sever items 1 and 2 and vote on parts 1 and 2 of this resolution and vote on them.
Yes.
Is there, how does the seconder feel about that? Are you?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, actually, I was gonna say something very, very similar to Councillor Woods. I was gonna suggest that items 1 and 2 be voted on and the remaining items be removed for the time being, with the exception of number 5, and that we make that a separate motion, that the fire chief will actively look into that. So kind of 2 motions, 1, 2, and 5, as 2 separate motions. But I was going to suggest, and this is only a suggestion, Councillor Woods, on item number 2, where it said that the existing pumper truck be replaced as soon as possible with the new or demonstration unit pumper truck, I'd stop it there instead of saying through a new revised procurement process. The only reason I'm saying that is I think there was a question asked during the discussions on, is the other pumper available, or had anybody thought to go and look into that? And I think the gentleman, they'd said that they hadn't thought of that, but it might be something to look at. So I'd simply say that for now, we just say that the existing pumper truck be replaced as soon as possible with a new or demonstration pumper truck. Leave it at that. And then, as Councillor Wood said, the other ones can be voted on at a later date. And that gives a little leeway just for staff to look into what transpired already. That's all. So yes, I'd support Councillor Wood's suggestion, but would ask that maybe the last 7 words be taken off of item number 2. That's all.
Okay, I was going to comment that if you know, you've taken out the, if you take out the reference to the procurement process, then you don't need number 4, but if there is going to be a new procurement process, then you need number 4 as well in order to get, we could defer number 3 to a later date, and we could defer number 5 and 6 to a later date, but,
Well,
you understand what the issue is?
yeah. I don't know. It seems we take 1 step forward and 2 back all the time. We never seem to get out of this dilemma of where the heck is the action, right? You can deal with it in pieces. By leaving revised procurement process in, that doesn't stop the fire chief from calling the previous quote and see if it's still alive and still there, and that he could bring back to council at the next meeting to say, hey, this truck is good to go and let's go do it, right? But if we just leave it and say, well, we'll just kind of do it as soon as possible with the new, we're going to replace it with with what? How are we going to do that, right? It leaves it right in the open. I guess we'll just sit around and wait till we come back and discuss it for another hour at another meeting. What do you mean take off the last bit? We're going to do it through a new revised procurement process. I thought is what I heard. Doesn't stop, again, the fire chief from doing that. I think number 5 and 6 are critical, and I'd like to comment on that. I was on council 6 years ago when this was brought up. I don't know whether the mayor was or not, but it would have been around that time,
I don't remember,
perhaps
but
before. And believe me, something didn't come and say, hey, we should be doing this for $2,000 and it'll save all our community, all this hundreds of or tens of thousands of dollars of insurance. And the council said, no, don't go do that. As I recall, we were recommended not to do it or told that we couldn't do it. That's the recollection I have on that particular item. So I just, for the record, I wanted to clarify that. So yeah, you can, I don't know. We just, this is frustrating for me. I agree that we need 5 and 6 as a separate motion. We can take off the number 3, but number 2's the last little part has to stay, in my opinion, or what are we going to do? And number 4 sort of goes with 1 and 2. But anyway, I guess I can vote the way I want to vote. That's my comment. Thank you.
Could I comment to that, Mr. Mayor, if you don't mind? Just a real quick follow-up to
Councillor
that.
Bray has her hand up first.
Yeah, I think,
Sorry.
Councillor Bray, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I think that we could leave in through a new and revised procurement process and maybe put in and I would like to see us go back and try and see if that deal is still available, because it's a really good price and we are not going to get that if we go back out. So I'd like to see us put in number 2, something along the lines of, should the previous tender not be available or bid not be available anymore. And then you could still leave in 4 that says request the fire chief to be requested to review and consider the implications of the recommended technical specifications. We could leave that in. I would like to see the other part, the tanker shuttle certification, taken out. And the only reason is that I don't think it really pertains to the purchase of the new pumper. I think it pertains to something else completely different around insurance for people who live within the 8 to 13 kilometers. And I think that it's something that can be looked at and pursued, but I don't think it needs to be here. And I don't think it needs to be in a resolution at all. I think it's something that as a fire department, if there's we can look into it and see the feasibility, but I think that you have to be able to, I think that if we're gonna deal with the pumper, we need to just deal with the pumper. And I would be more than happy if we could, add in that, you know, that we want to go with we want to see whether the former tender is still available and the bid and then see what else. Then we know whether we have to go on for further procurement.
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, my inclination is to allow a motion to sever if we get one. Because it doesn't stop us from dealing with everything that's here on the page, but I'm wondering if this would be a way forward, so that we take we have the mover and seconder move part one as it is, which is just receiving the report. Number two, that and this is Councillor Bray's suggestion, that the existing pumper truck be replaced as soon as possible with a new or demonstration unit pumper truck through a new revised procurement process should the existing proposal be no longer available. So if you put that there, that sets in stone that we're gonna check, right? Because I think everybody is in agreement that we should try that. And then add number 4 to that one, that the fire chief be requested to review and consider the implementation of the recommended technical specifications in any new request for proposal procurement as noted in the report. And that way, if the answer, because you could find out in 2 days, forget it, we're not getting that truck, right? The one that was already bid.
Yep.
So now we don't have to wait and do nothing until November or whenever we have our next meeting. So then we can get to work on, then the fire chief can get to work on what has to be done with that. So the mover and seconder, are you willing to make that the motion as I read it to you?
Could I just say one thing to
Sure.
number 4? I really appreciate how much experience the guys that gave this report had.
Yeah.
And I'll never knock anybody for, making a report and handing it out. But when it comes to a vehicle or a tool, I'm not listening to anybody other than the person that uses it. And there's a specific reason for that. And I will give you a specific reason for that. Just in that report, when they talked about the barn doors on the trucks, service body trucks that I worked out of my whole life, those barn doors are a nightmare. The hinges break. They always let loose. The handles break. You're much better off with a roll up, where they didn't want to roll up because it'd be cheaper for the barn door. Just because you're getting something cheaper or you're looking at another option, it doesn't mean you're getting what you're actually gonna want for longevity. Might be a little bit cheaper now. It's gonna cost us more in the long run, guaranteed.
Mr. Mayor?
So the wording that,
Could
go
I
ahead.
just, the wording in number 4 says that the fire chief be requested to review and consider.
Yeah, that's,
The word is consider. So if he doesn't believe in the barn doors or the sliding doors or any other type of doors, he doesn't have to do it. So he can reject that if he wants to, right? That's up to him.
Sure. I personally just think that we're either gonna take the word of the people that use it, or we're gonna listen to somebody that's never used it.
Combination of both.
There's no point in that. The tradesman's gonna tell you how the job's done. The administration's gonna tell you how the paperwork's done. And that's the truth.
okay. Are you prepared to move those 3 motions, those 3 parts as I read them to you though? Councillor Nash, are you prepared to second those?
I think in what Councillor Woods was saying, I'd have no problem moving. I think he was saying it, and I'd support him on moving the first 2 items that you'd said and removing 4, and I'd support that if that's what Councillor Woods wanted. I totally agree. I think number 2 is exactly done in what Councillor Bray's added. So I'd say 1 and 2 and remove 4 if that's what Councillor Woods wanted to see. I totally support that.
No, he didn't say that.
you want to clarify what
But my original thing was 1 and 2. We could always ask Bob to review anything afterwards. I mean, Bob's. The way I see it is they didn't really, they knocked a couple of the things, like he asked for turtle tiles, where that'd be like asking for spackle instead of you just want a plaster job done, right? Those are names that you use for
Yeah.
a specific product, but the idea is the same. And my reasoning is, if you were to call any of these manufacturers, and it doesn't matter what word you use, they know what you want and what you need, and what you're talking about. So Bob can review it all day, but he already wrote in his original tender the kind of things that we require to get the job done. You can butter up the words to make it look as nice as you want, but at the end of the day, the manufacturer knows exactly what the person that wants it is talking about. Right? Turtle tiles or screw-in plugs or tow hooks, that's industry standard stuff for a vehicle today is what's going to happen no matter what name you put on it or what kind of report you send across.
Yeah, I guess my argument for leaving item 4 the way it is worded is simply, I think what we don't want is we don't want to repeat of what happened before. He goes back out with something that is, whatever it is, that is an exact statement of, this is what we want. I mean, and people say, well, we got other, we got units on the, let's say we have some demonstrator, or we have some units that we built that we could sell, but they don't exactly meet it. Well, we want to get some discussion about that rather than going back to have one person again submit a bid, only this time it's $90,000 instead of 75 or whatever. So I think this is, what we're trying to do is we're trying to suggest, look, you need to the fire chief, look, you need to consider how to conduct this in a way that gets us more options. And he still gets to look at them. He still gets to say, well, I'm sorry, that's, I know these people have this truck and they want to sell it to us, but it isn't what we want, so we don't want it, right? If there's good reasons why we don't want it, then yeah, we take it off the list. You can take it off the list. But I just want to try to have a different outcome this time than the last time. Councillor Lamb.
And I agree with you, Mr. Mayor. 4 has to be in there. Otherwise, we make a call, or Bob makes a call, or Bob and Michelle make a call tomorrow or the next day, and they say, truck isn't available. Okay, now what do? Oh, as soon as possible, we have to put a new RFP or whatever. I guess we don't pay attention to the report, and there's a lot of good stuff in that report about demonstrators and other comments as to what limited us in terms of getting more bids. And we've had a lot of discussion tonight. So I think a proper request for information or whatever would have to be put together. I think maybe Michelle and Bob can work on that based on their knowledge and experience. Maybe you get this performance group to vet it for $500 or something, and you send it out, and away we go. I do agree that 5 and 6 can be dealt with separately, but I do think we need to move on 5 and 6, not just have a staff direction. But anyway, that's my comment. So if it were me, I'd be leaving 4 in. But if we need to have a vote on whether it's just 1 and 2, then I guess we call the vote and then go from there, I guess, I guess, anyway.
Okay, so mover and seconder, it's up to you. What do you want? What do you want? What are you moving and seconding?
I would say move the first 2, Mr. Mayor, and then we can split up the rest and vote on the rest of them right now afterwards, if that's what everybody wants.
And I'll second that.
But 4 goes with what are you going to split afterwards? Have a second motion on 4?
I'm going to ask for a mover and seconder for item 4, right? If you want to do it separately, we can do it separately, but
sure.
I
And
think if
through
you
you,
don't,
Mr. Mayor.
if you just do number 1 and 2, then you're not making any comment about the new revised procurement process, which I'm afraid is going to end it back up in another meeting of the council. That's my concern, but anyway, all right. Let's do number 1 and let's vote on number 1 and 2, please. No, I'm going to read them again, just so everybody's sure. The number 1 says that the Council of the Municipality of Whitestone received for information the Performance Concepts Consulting Report dated October 2023. And 2, that the existing pumper truck be replaced as soon as possible with a new or demonstration unit pumper truck through a new / revised procurement process should the existing proposal be no longer available. Or the previous proposal, whatever you want. Anyway, that's the motion. You want to call the vote on that? I can.
Yes, I'm just writing. I will see one moment here.
I'm going to change existing to previous is probably a better word because we don't know if it exists or not. May
Yes,
not
I got
exist
that.
anymore.
Should the previous proposal no longer be
May no
available?
longer be- yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Bray,
Yes.
Councillor Lamb,
No,
Councillor Nash,
excuse,
Yes.
I'm in favor of those two, but I'm voting. So here's my dilemma. Are we going to be talking about 4?
Yeah, we're going to come back to do number 4 in a minute.
Okay, well, I agree with 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
and I believe I heard Councillor Nash say yes. Is that correct?
Correct, yes.
Thank you. Councillor Woods and Mayor Comrie.
Yes.
Thank you for that. That's carried.
All right, so now I would ask if there is a mover for item 4. We'll move on to item 4 because that's sort of the next thing that goes with this, in my opinion.
I'll move it.
Councillor Lamb moves. Is there a seconder for number 4?
Second for discussion purposes.
And seconded by Councillor Woods. All right. So it's moved and seconded. Is there anything new that anybody has to say about this?
If I might, Mr. Mayor, I'll be 20 seconds on this or less. I just want to say that when it comes to number 4, I just want to, or I feel that we have to trust that the fire chief, if a new tender goes out, is going to take some of the recommendations in the report. He might not take them all, and we have to trust that the fire chief will do his job in putting out a new RFP instead of saying that maybe he will and he might consider it. I think that's an obvious, and therefore that's why I'm not suggesting or I wouldn't support it, simply because I think it's just something we have to assume that the fire chief is going to do when he's doing his job. That's all. Just trying to be very simple in when I'm thinking of it. That's all.
And my 20 seconds through you, Mr. Mayor, is what's the boogeyman here? He's looking for some direction from council. And that's what we should be doing, is giving him some direction. Not just saying, well, start up a procurement process, Bob, and do whatever you want to do, right? There are things in there that could open it up to get more bids if we want to. And he obviously is going to put the thing together as he wants to, but there's nothing wrong with directing him to do that. But I think we're just in a void. Don't consult with anyone, just go ahead and put her together. We'll be right back here with one bid, perhaps from the same person, 3 months from now. I don't see why it's so fearful. I went over my 20 seconds.
Okay, Councillor Bray.
Yeah, and I'm not worried about this one as far as that some may be feeling. I'm as long as we as council then take what the chief considers and quit questioning all the time and making it look like he doesn't know what he's doing. Because everything that came out in that report, almost everything that came out in that report was all information that was presented the first time round. And yeah, I'm the deputy chief, and yes, I'm in the fire department, and but I'm not just defending him because of that. I'm saying that that was a good, he came up with a report that said, this is a good price. This is what other people have found in the industry. We only got one bid, and this one met all the criteria that we wanted. Yes, we may have only got one bid, but I went through our procurement policy, and under tendering, it doesn't say you have to have 2 bids. It doesn't say you have to have any number. So I'm just saying, as long as we as council are then, whatever if he has to go out for a new tender, that we take what he puts in it as what is needed, and to remember that we need to be respectful of the roles that people in our that our staff do, that and the knowledge and information that goes with 30 years of service and 30 years in it. It's not like he made that tender up all by himself. He probably consulted many people and found many different other tenders. So I'm just saying that I'm okay with leaving it in, as long as we as council remember to be respectful when it comes.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Woods.
Just to maybe remind all of us, but we actually got 2 bids. But one was late, so we couldn't open it. We got rid of it, right? And all of the other communities that we had talked to before, they only got 1 and 2 bids for fire trucks when they went to look for new ones. Just want to put that out there.
Yeah.
I think that second bid was thrown out before we looked at it, though. Yeah, so we don't know.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't know what it was.
Maybe it was 450,000. I don't know.
Well, yeah, can we call the question, please, Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Councillor Bray,
Yes.
Councillor Lamb,
Yes.
Councillor Nash,
No.
Councillor Woods,
Yes.
Mayor Comrie.
Yes.
So that motion is carried, and that's related to number 4. Thank you.
Okay, so does anyone wish to move 5 and 6 or 3 now, or are you content to leave those till we get back from?
Well,
till we?
through you, Mr. Mayor, I just don't want it to go by the wayside. Right? This is very advantageous to whether it's the people around Dunchurch or whatever, but it's, you know, every other community, McDougall, Carling, Seguin, others seem to have it. And I think we should be following up, at least investigating it, and whether that's a direction to the fire chief to do it and to come back to us sometime in 2024 on the viability of it, or whether we do it through a formal motion like this. It makes more sense to do it through a motion, but I don't care. I don't care how we do it. I just would like it done. Right? And I think we have the ability as a council to give that staff direction to do it. Right? I'm not saying that the answer is, you know, maybe the answer comes back, it's not viable for Dunchurch or Whitestone, right? But we have to investigate it and run it down, particularly if it's advantageous to our taxpayers, which is what we're here for. So I don't care how we do it.
So do you want to move it then?
I'll move 5 and 6 as a separate motion, but again, and you know, I think Q3 of 2024, that's a year from now, right? Just come back to us.
Yeah.
By a year from now on whether it's viable or not. I guess I don't know.
Okay, thanks. Is there a seconder for that one? No?
Well,
No.
I will second it, and then I have a comment.
Okay. You go ahead and make a comment. Absolutely.
Well,
Moved and seconded. Comment.
I'm fine with 5 because it says actively review the feasibility. Number 6, it says report to council with a tanker shuttle certification action plan. If it's not feasible, then there will be no action plan. So,
Yeah, that's,
or it's not, and I would just put in with a tanker shuttle certification action plan if feasible.
If feasible.
yeah, that does.
All right, yeah, I think that's a good comment, yeah.
No, that's a good.
If it's not
that's good.
feasible, then do it, yeah.
That's good. I agree with that.
Okay, so that's number 5 and 6 are moved and seconded. Any other comments? The words if feasible added to the end of number 6.
Yep.
Okay, we'll call the question on 5 and 6, please.
Counselor Bray,
Yes.
Counselor Lamb.
Yes,
Counselor Nash,
Yes.
Counselor Woods,
Yes.
Mayor Comrie,
Yes,
and that motion is carried as well.
all right. Is it agreed that we'll leave number 3 till
yeah, 3 isn't necessary.
the budget time? Okay, I'll just make a note that's submitted. Thank you very much. Okay, so. Now, that brings us back to our planning matters. And the first one is the Ewan's, the application to essentially collapse 3 lots into 2 lots. Here's a suggested motion, whereas John Jackson Planner Inc. has prepared a report dated October 2nd, 2023 for the Parry Sound Area Planning Board regarding consent application B33/2023 Whitestown. The applicants, John and Inga Ewan, and provided a copy to the municipality of Whitestown. Now therefore be it resolved that the council of the municipality of Whitestown receives this report for information, and that the council of the municipality of Whitestown recommends this consent application for approval in principle, subject to the following conditions. That payment of a parkland dedication fee be made in accordance with the current municipal. Oh, it is there.
I didn't have to ask my question.
Sorry, I'm reading this after having this discussion and why it wasn't necessary. It says,
Paula, is that,
So that's an error. Sorry,
Okay,
that was an error on my part, sorry.
okay, so we take over.
so it should be taken out.
Yes, please.
I guess if it's the, I mean, it's John's report, so. So, the condition number 2, I guess we'll have to renumber them, but condition number 2 is that the newly created lots receive 911 addressing from the municipality. 3, that the newly created lots be rezoned to the waterfront residential 2 limited service exception zone. 4, that the applicant's solicitor confirms in writing that the 2 lots, parts 5 and 6 of PSR 755 have merged in title, and that all applicable planning fees be paid to the municipality of Whitestown. So there are 4 conditions. We'll just renumber them here. Who would like to move that?
I'll move it.
Moved by Counselor Lamb, seconded by Counselor Bray. Discussion. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I just have a question. So how does this work in terms of billing? So there's no parkland dedication fee. You're obviously working on the file, Paula. Who pays who? This goes obviously to the planning board. What about our costs in Whitestone? Are they paid for? Or just the work we do? Like John bills us, does he?
Correct, John.
And is that then put back to this file?
Correct,
Okay,
yes.
okay, so
Because
we
we
get
have-
reimbursed for all the work on this. I'm just thinking if we throw out a parkland dedication fee and it's costing us, that shouldn't be the case, so, but we are reimbursed.
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah, the
thank-
last condition, Counselor Lamb, is it says all applicable planning fees be paid to the municipality of
Okay,
Whitestone,
yeah,
right? So we're anything. else
so if
we-
I may, so wherever John Jackson represents us, the municipality, as opposed to the planning board, those fees are paid. So
But
his-
what about Paula's time? for instance?
that has never been part of the equation.
So while we throw out the parkland dedication fee, we incurring staff time on these applications is my point, right? Again, not for tonight, but, you know, this isn't free, right?
That's through you, Mr. Mayor, that's true. Paula does a lot of consultations and work behind the scenes that is simply part of the service the municipality provides. Other municipalities actually charge for that, but Whitestone has not in the past.
I think we should consider that at the budget time, okay, because you know, it's becoming more and more expensive. Consultation is one thing, but once an actual application comes forward, I think our staff time should be charged back to the planning file. So anyway.
Okay, thank you, noted.
All right, other comments or on this one? Are you ready for the question then, please?
Councillor Bray,
Yes.
Councillor Lamb,
Yes.
Councillor Nash,
No.
Councillor Woods,
Yes.
Mayor Comrie.
Yes.
That motion is carried.
Okay, the next one, Mr. Merritt's lot addition. Whereas John Jackson Planner Inc. has prepared a report dated October 4th, 2023 for the Parry Sound Area Planning Board regarding consent application B34/2023 Whitestone, and provided the applicant is Gary Merritt, and provided a copy to the municipality of Whitestone. Now therefore be it resolved that the council of the municipality of Whitestone receives this report for information, and that the municipality of Whitestone recommends this consent application for approval in principle, subject to the following conditions. Number one, that lot 5 plan 42M-628 be deemed to be no longer be a lot in a plan of subdivision. Number two, that the existing rights of way become part of the lot addition. 3, that the applicant's solicitor confirms in writing that the lot addition has merged in title with lot 5 plan 42M-628. And 4, that all applicable planning fees be paid to the municipality of Whitestone. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Woods moves. Councillor Lamb seconds. Any discussion on this one? Okay, we'll call the question then.
Councillor Bray,
Yes.
Councillor Lamb,
Yes.
Councillor Nash,
Yes.
Councillor Woods,
Yes.
Mayor Comrie.
Yes.
That motion is carried.
And finally, item 5.2.3, which is the Greenwoods conditions of approval. Motion is that the council of the municipality receives for information the memorandum from Paula Macri, planning assistant, dated October 17th, 2023, entitled Status of Conditions of Approval Consent Application B05/2022 Whitestone. Applicants Ted and Karen Greenwood. And whoops.
We're just receiving the memo for information,
Oh, we're just receiving it.
and then you'll get to the bylaw. For that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, the bylaw. Yeah, I was I was thinking should be some more on this one, but anyway. All right, so that is what I read to you is the motion. It's simply to receive for information the memorandum at this point. Councillor Woods moves. And Councillor Bray seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor then, please.
Councillor Bray,
Yes.
Councillor Lamb,
Yes.
Councillor Nash,
Yes.
Councillor Woods,
Yes.
Mayor Comrie.
Yes.
Motion is carried.
Okay, consent agenda. Whereas the council of the municipality of Whitestone has reviewed the consent agenda consisting of council and committee meeting minutes That's the regular council meeting minutes for Tuesday, October 3rd, 2023. And unfinished business listed on page 4 of today's agenda. Now therefore be it resolved that the council of the municipality of Whitestone does hereby approve the regular council meeting minutes for Tuesday, October 3rd, 2023, and that the council of the municipality of Whitestone receives for information the unfinished business listing contained in the consent agenda dated October 17th, 2023. Mover and seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Bray, seconded by Councillor Lamb. Any discussion? Okay, ready for the question then.
Counselor Bray,
Yes.
Counselor Lamb,
Yes.
Counselor Nash,
Yes.
Counselor Woods,
Yes.
and Mayor Comrie.
Yes.
Motion is carried.
All right, thank you. That brings us to the payables. You got a mover and seconder that the council of the municipality of Whitestone received for information the accounts payable listing in the amount of $530,471.23 for the period ending October 12th, 2023. Moved by Councillor Woods, seconded by Councillor Nash, or Councillor Lamb, sorry. Discussion. Councillor Lamb.
Yeah, just a couple small ones. Page 3, which is 90 of 198. At the bottom is Rico Canada, 785. So how does our copier work? Is that for overages or something? Or are we paying per copy or? Maybe
Yes.
this is a monthly thing that I've missed or whatever, but how does that work?
Oh, Paul was just telling me, we do pay per copy, but this is toner that was purchased,
Oh, okay.
toner cartridges.
Oh, it says usage, so, okay. But we pay every copy we make, we pay something. to
A small
Rico
fee, yes.
Because it's a leased copier? Is that why?
No, I believe we own it.
We bought it. It was expensive.
We bought it, but as part of buying it, we have to pay
A small fee. Yeah. That's a good. I'm gonna look into that.
council
Yeah.
break.
Yeah. Sometimes if you have a maintenance agreement,
Which we
they
do.
charge per copy.
Okay,
And we do have a maintenance agreement, so that must be it.
okay, sorry, that's why it was quick. I had one other one. Just, let me find it here. Oh, yeah, page 93 of 198. Magneto on truck and trailer, a piggyback kit. And again, I don't know exactly what a piggyback kit is, but would that be capital or would that be operating? Like it's $6,600. Is that something we would put in a capital budget?
No, that's operating.
That's operating, so it would have been planned and all that kind of stuff, right?
I'm assuming so. That's a good question. I can follow up with,
What is a piggyback kit?
I actually don't know.
Well, you can add that to
I've-
turtle.
Turtle tiles.
Turtle
that's
tiles,
right.
piggyback kits. Well, maybe just tell us what it is, you know, I don't know what it is. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Other questions? Comments on payables? Okay, if not, I guess we can call the. No.
Yes, we need to call the question.
We still need to call. the
We have
question.
a mover and seconder.
Yeah.
Counselor Bray,
Yes.
Counselor Lamb.
Yes.
Counselor Nash,
Yes.
Counselor Woods,
Yes.
Mayor Comrie.
Yes.
Thank you. That's carried.
Okay, planning service. Staff reports, planning service statistics is the first one, number 9.1. Some information prepared by our planning assistant on various aspects of this. To get a mover and seconder, please, that the council of the municipality of Whitestone receives report PLN 2023-02, Planning Services Statistics, Q3 2023 for information. And the staff continue to keep council updated with quarterly reporting on planning services statistics. Mover and seconder for that, moved by Councillor Bray, seconded by Councillor Woods. Any comments, questions on this report? And Councillor Lamb.
Yeah, thanks, Paula. Seems to me that when I look at it, the recoverable and the non-recoverable are way, way under budget. Is there a reason for that? Because it's 8,200 recoverable and we budgeted 37,000. And non-recoverable is 94 and we budgeted 50,000. Like, what's happened? Like, that's big time differences.
Through you, Mr. Brett, while Paula is pondering that, we've had a lot less planning applications this year than in previous years. And actually that might be at the end in Q4, it might be good to look at comparisons year to year. Now, I believe there are still some outstanding recoverables and some outstanding expenses that just haven't been billed yet. Would that be correct?
Correct.
Wow, that seems really under budget.
It is
So
low,
that-
yes.
So the overall planning budget, if you will, it's more than these two things, right? Like, I guess I would ask of Manish, if there's a line in our budget that says planning, what's the budget for the year and how much, what's the line item for it? You can maybe look it up and let me know. It seems like not very, anyway, thank you for your report.
Any other questions or comments on the report? Yeah, I guess we'll call the question then, please.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Mayor, if I
Oh.
might, I do have a couple quick questions.
Yes, Councillor Nash, go ahead.
Thanks. I guess, first off, if I'm correct, Paula, when I see on page 2 of your report, page 99 of 148, the 5,970 39 for the 9 invoices or 9 files, I'll assume. I don't remember seeing a report for Q1 or Q2. So is this report for the $6,000 only representing the Q3 expenses for the 6,000? I'm just thinking of some names, like the Keene file or the Roberts file or the Heisey file or whatever it might be. I don't see any of those here. Have we gotten a report for Q1 or Q2, or is this only for Q3? I think it's only for Q3. I just want to understand if I'm correct.
I believe you would have received a Q1 and Q2 report on July 19th, which represented the invoices from January 1st to June 30th. So it would have been in the July 19th council agenda.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay,
And
thanks.
I was just going to answer Councillor Lamb's question. For this year, there was $50,000 in budgeting for planning and development, Councillor Lamb, under item number 16-843. I had that handy from earlier today, so.
And how much of that 50,000 has been spent?
17,858.24.
It's really down. Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Through you, Mayor. I want to also add the revenue part of planning zoning is 15,380, 37,000. We made around 17,117 so far revenue on that.
17 of the 37.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything else on this item? Okay, I guess we'll call the question on that one. Burke?
Thank you. Counselor Bray,
Yes.
Counselor Lamb,
Yes.
Counselor Nash,
Yes.
Counselor Woods,
Yes.
Mayor Comrie.
Yes.
That motion is carried.
Okay, next one is 9.2, which is the budgetary control report for the 9 months ending September 26th, 2023. Mover and seconder, please, that the Council of the Municipality of Whitestone receives report FIN 2023-07, the budgetary control report for the 9 months ending September 26, 2023 for information. And that staff continue to keep council updated with quarterly budgetary control reporting. Moved by Councilor Woods, seconded by Councilor Bray. Discussion. Any questions or comments on our treasurer's report?
I would through you, Mr. Mayor, if I could.
Go ahead, Councilor Nash.
Thank you. First off, Manish, thank you for putting the report together. I guess I just have it's more a couple observations. And Manish, maybe you can answer some of them now, and if not, maybe you can get back to us later. I guess just when I looked through it, I notice on our reserves that have to go in and out. It might be an end of the year item, but I know the asset management reserve or the fire vehicle equipment reserve, the fire pump reserve, items like that, road reserve equipment, none of that's been accounted for 2/3 of the year as yet. So I'm assuming that might get done at the end of the year, but I think it's just something we need to be cognizant of, along with the parkland dedication fee that we have to withdraw. Am I correct, Manisha, that gets done only at the end of the year?
Through you, Mayor. Yes, Mr. Nash is right. It will be done through end of the year. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Manish. And I guess just when I flipped through it, I know there is, and everybody's well aware of it, a lot of expenses that are going to be coming in. It looks like in the fourth quarter, for example, the bunny trail, things like that. So I think when I look at this, it would look like Q4 will really determine how our year ends up. I know, I'm just trying to find it here. There was a payment, for example, like policing levy. That's on page 105 of 148. And I'm guessing our budget's going to be pretty close because we knew the levy beforehand, but we're showing it as 415,000 and it's only 240 now. So I think there's going to be lots of big numbers to juggle at the end of the year here. And based on the juggling of the numbers that have to go on, Manish, and seeing where the numbers are coming in, I know right now we're under revenue, but I'm guessing a lot of that has to do, as you've pointed out, has to do with the final tax installment that's due. From what you see and from tracking from last year, I guess, how do you think our year will end based on what we projected and what you see right now once all the invoices and stuff come in? Do you think we're going to be close to on budget, or do you think we're going to be over or under? I know I'm asking you to kind of see the future, but what do you see from what you see for numbers coming in now, if you had that crystal ball?
Through you, Mayor. Councillor Nash, I was discussing this matter with our road supervisor, Creaser, and fire department chief, Bob. And most of the expenses are where they say there is no expenses like expected within the budget. So my best prediction, we will be within a budget and it will be close. I don't think we are going to over the budget so far, my best estimate. Thank you.
Perfect. That's great news. Thanks, Manish.
Yeah, it is.
Counselor Lamb.
Yeah, it is. That was going to be my question. I just have a couple small ones. First of all, I do know, and I agree with the legal expenses at 103,000. I think we're going to be 130 or 40 something before we're into there. That's just a comment. But I found on page 106, this a little thing, 106 of 148, boat launches, 16,399, 8,500, and with 3,100. Final invoices expected in Q4. I thought we did most or all of the work. Why are we waiting for invoices in Q4 when a lot of the work was done in the spring or the summer? Like isn't that a lot of it was internal work, wasn't it?
Through you, Mayor.
Go ahead.
I will double check on this matter with Mr. Fraser. Is it done or is some invoice is pending? Because sometimes invoice comes later, like the work is already done. It's not came to AP. That may be the reason Mr. Fraser said it may be one more invoice coming. I'll double check on that with.
Yeah, that was important to council, and I know we got a report. I thought a month or so ago, and you know, I thought there was a heck of a lot more than 3,100 that was incurred. I thought that was incurred at Wawashkesh alone or something, right? So anyway, yeah, that hit me. I don't know what, you don't need to get back. I guess it's a little thing. Okay, I think that's all I have. I'm really pleased to have you say that we're gonna be close to budget. Because I don't know why I had the sense that we would be in a deficit this year, but you know, particularly when I look at something like the legal fees, right? But I guess the human resources contingency is down somewhat, so maybe they balance off a little bit. I don't know. Anyway, okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Counselor Woods.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, through you. Just a couple of real quick ones, I believe. On page 106, there's a section 4x4 truck maintenance, 16,393, and then it says 16,394 for the same 4x4 truck for fuel. And then there's a couple more 394 same. Am I missing something, or like should those be removed? Where it's showing 0 and 0 for the 4x4 truck, because then it's the Dodge Ram and same kind of account number, or is that different truck?
That may be a previous truck. The number is like, I think it was sold last year.
Okay.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, those numbers do look odd.
Right.
So let us look into it. The 4x4 shouldn't be 16,394 if the Dodge Ram is 16,394. There might, I suspect that should be 16,393 for the 4x4 fuel. I think that looks like what the problem is.
Next page 107, the backhoe 216 backhoe maintenance.
Sorry, I can correct that through you, Mayor.
Go ahead.
The number is the GL code is 16-3394-1. That is a GL. And another is 16-394-2. That's the GL.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 216 backhoe maintenance. It says no further invoice is expected ongoing. The final cost is expected to be more than budget due to the service. That's for the backhoe, the 216 backhoe maintenance, I'm assuming. Am I reading that right?
Sorry, which GL number?
16426.
It's on page 107 of 148.
We spent 4,800, we budgeted 24, and then there's the remark beside it under comments. I thought we were selling that machine. And are we selling it, or when are we planning on trying to sell it? I don't.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, I have asked our Public Works Manager to move on that auction item. He did indicate that he expected it to be sold by the end of November. I just don't have all the details, but it's not staying in the fleet.
Okay. And just one other one, streetlights. What streetlights? How many streetlight? We had $8,000 worth of streetlights? I don't know. I'm,
Four of them across the road here, right? Don't we?
Yep, there's some down Church Street. There's a few across the road that are on MTO property that we own.
and just one more that I was kind of buttering you guys up for when it came to streetlights, whatever happened to my request about the one down at the dock? Are we ever gonna look into that? Here, first budget meeting? I just throwing it out there because I know budget talks are coming again and I'll bring it up again. That's all.
Yeah, thank you for reminding me that, I think that did get missed last year. So we'll make a note of that for the 2024 budget.
Okay, anything else on payables or on the financial report? If not, I guess we'll call the question on the motion to receive it.
Thank you. That would be Councillor Bray, please.
Yes.
Councillor Lamb,
Yes.
Councillor Nash,
Yes.
Councillor Woods,
Yes.
and Mayor Comrie.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion is carried.
Okay, so the final staff report is a building department activity report from our CBO. Mover and seconder that please that the Council of the Municipality of Whitestone receives report VLDG 2023-04 entitled Building Services Update and Building Permit Activity for the period July 1st to September 30th, 2023 for information. And that staff continue to keep council updated with quarterly reporting on building service activities. We'll move that. Councillor Lamb, seconded by Councillor Woods. Discussion. Councillor,
No.
He's not able to be here, but he did ask me to say that he has closed an additional 2 permits since he wrote the report. He's pretty proud of that. He's got all his files organized with the help of our student, and whenever he's going out to a certain area, he takes those files with him and he's able to help folks and close off permits. So he's a man on a mission.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that was going to be my question is, because I always ask that.
Yeah.
Because it's a real bugaboo in my mind that, we talk about and I hear about areas all over the municipality where there are buildings and docks and structures that don't have building permits. And now I guess a whole bunch of them are gonna be further grandfathered because I guess the building code's gone from 108 square feet to 160 or something. So that'd be a whole bunch more that are now kind of legal, but many of them never had building permits and I'm sure he's stretched with the work that he does, and I'm trying to come up with how the heck we can do this better, right? Do we need to hire? I think I brought up hiring a student at one point to actually go out and look at the geographic network and say, there's one building permit and there's 4 buildings on that lot. Let's get our butts over there and find out what's going on, because I'm paying extra taxes. I'll tell you, I have building permits for everything, but I'm paying taxes for people who aren't paying taxes. And it really irks me. And I'm not embarrassed to say you should be paying your taxes on what you have on your property. And so I think as budget time comes along, maybe we can look at something, a retired building, anyway, whatever we need to do to particularly, I hear about some of the hither and yon. Some of the lakes I've heard, Bolger, I've heard the areas out like that where you've got, $1 million structures that they're not paying taxes, they're paying on vacant land. Because they never, anyway, I'll stop it at that, but it really is a bugaboo of mine I mean, I see dozens of docks go up every year. And they're not replacing them, and if they are replacing them, they're replacing them with docks that are 3 or 4 times the size. And I'm wondering, you got a building permit? You know, I don't go and ask them, but anyway, it's a bugaboo, so maybe we can address that. And the last comment I'll make is, how many outstanding orders are there? This tells us how many we've closed, but I mean, before there were hundreds. So I want to know whether there's still hundreds or 110 or 62, or maybe that will help ease my pain, I guess. So maybe he could get to us on how many outstanding non-completed building permits there are that aren't dated 2023, right? Obviously, pre-2023, right? So anyway, thank you.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, just for clarity, you want to know how many outstanding building permits there are pre-2023?
Correct, because 2023, they're doing their work, right? But
Right. Even in 2022, folks sometimes take 2
well,
years.
some are, but the report we got before was 2022, 2021, 2020, 2019. That's the previous report that we used to get on that. And it was existing, so I don't want to create tons and tons of work, but we must have some idea if we're following up on them, right? Anyway,
Okay, I've made note.
thank you.
Anything else? Councilor Bray?
No, I was just putting my hand up that we're close, we're at curfew. I'll have that motion soon.
Not yet, right?
No, we're not.
At 10.
Oh, not till 10. Okay, sorry. I started at 6:30. Thank you, sorry.
But I do think a 5-minute break would be appropriate after this report, Mr. Mayor, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay, can do. All right, so if there's nothing else, I guess we can call the question on 9.3 first.
Thank you. Councillor Bray,
Yes.
Councillor Lamb,
Yes.
Councillor Nash,
Yes.
Councillor Woods,
Yes.
Mayor Comrie.
Yes,
That motion is carried.
you want a 5-minute recess?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, thank you.
And? Okay, we're now, the recess is now ended and we're back in meeting and the recording has started. We are at bylaws and we have one bylaw, which is the one that was discussed earlier in committee of the whole. It's in a bylaw to enter into an agreement for conditions of approval of consent for the Greenwoods. I get a mover and seconder, please, at bylaw number 66-2023, being a bylaw to enter into an agreement for conditions of approval of consent B02-2022 Whitestone, be read a first and second time this 7th day of October 2023, and further read a third time, passed and properly signed and sealed this 17th day of October 2023, and numbered bylaw number 66-2023. Moved by Councillor Lamb, seconded by Councillor Woods. Any discussion? If not, we'll call a question.
Councillor Bray,
Yes.
Councillor Lamb,
Yes.
Councillor Nash,
Yes.
Councillor Woods,
Yes.
and Mayor Comrie.
Yes.
That motion is carried.
Okay, so business matters, 11.1, we have a holiday schedule for the upcoming Christmas, New Year's holiday period for the municipal office and landfill sites. Can I get a mover and seconder that, please, that the council of the municipality of Whitestone receives for information the memorandum municipal office and landfill sites holiday schedule 2023, and that the council of the municipality of Whitestone approves the municipal office and landfill sites holiday schedule for 2023. Who will move that? Councillor Woods. Seconded by Councillor Bray. Any discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I just have, if I might, I just have one really quick question on one of the dates.
Go ahead.
It's under the landfill, and I see that the office is closed December 25th to January 1st, which makes sense. I was just wondering, on Sunday, January the 1st, we have it as open, and I was wondering if it would be prudent to say closed and give the landfill attendants the day off for New Year's Day like everybody else so they can enjoy New Year's. That was all. Everything else I think looks exactly what I thought it would. It was just the January 1st for the Sunday for the dump. I was surprised at.
You want to comment, Madam CIO?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, that's actually a good point. That was talked about in the office and it was supposed to be changed, but you're right. At this time of year, the landfill folks take the statutory holidays. And so that will be a closed day for the landfill, and they'll be open again on January 3rd. So we'll add that to the closed list.
And
I'm sorry, but are you agreeing with what he said?
I am, yes. Right here. This says Sunday, January 1st. Open, it should say closed.
Oh,
'Cause that's
I thought, sorry, I thought you were talking about Councillor Nash was talking about the 26th.
No, we're talking about
No.
January 1st here. Yeah, that's a good point.
January 1st.
Okay, so that should be changed then to closed. With the Saturday, Sunday, January 1st?
That's correct.
All right. Because it's New Year's Day. Yeah, okay, makes sense. Councillor Woods.
Under the landfill hours, the dates, we've got a number sequence out. Wednesday should be the 27th. Not the 28th.
Oh, boy.
And then
Okay.
Thursday would be. Something's wrong here, isn't?
Let me just pull up a calendar here.
Is
See where
Monday
we
the
are.
25th? Yeah, I mean.
So let's see. Maybe we'll just why don't I just take this back and bring it on November 7th? It doesn't change a heck of a lot. But you're right that
But
actually
something's off.
January 1st is
You could just come back.
Monday.
a Monday. Yeah. Yeah. Let's just ignore this. We'll have staff
Okay.
rewrite this and we'll bring it back on November 7th.
And through you, Mr. Mayor, just for clarification, those days that are not statutory holidays, employees either take bank time or vacation or whatever, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so we do have a motion on the floor. Are we going to defer it or what?
You can withdraw.
Withdraw it, mover and seconder? We agree to withdraw it then? Okay, so withdrawn. Okay, 11.2 is a proposed draft 2024 schedule of regular council meetings. So mover and seconder that the council of the municipality of Whitestone receives for information the 2024 draft regular council meeting schedule. And that the Council of the Municipality of Whitestone approves the draft regular council meeting schedule for 2024.
I can move that motion, Mr. Mayor.
So moved by Councillor Nash, seconded by Councillor Woods. Discussion.
If I might, Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead.
thank you. I know I've spoken to several members of council separately about this item. And I guess I just wanted to make a brief discussion about it and see what other counselors and staff also feel about something that I might propose. And I guess just to get started on, I guess, Michelle, if I could, I'd ask, I'm not sure if you can answer this question, but when we have council meetings, like right now, we show one on January the 9th, January the 11th, and January the 23rd. I guess I'm assuming there's some redundancy, I'll call it, in work in what staff has to do to put it together, i.e. the photocopying, the dropping it off at the landfill and the various sites, the posting of the agendas, the sending out of the agendas, the completing of the meeting minutes, separate to all of the reports and everything that go into it. But on an every other week basis, I'm guessing that over the course of the year, there's dozens and dozens and dozens of hours of redundancy that has to be done for every meeting, be it a week apart, 3 weeks apart, a month apart. Would I be correct on that? That it's just a number of hours that needs to be done just to get the system done. Would I be correct on that assumption?
Yeah, I'm not sure I'd use the word redundancy because each meeting is unique and important unto itself. But yes, there's a whole process, and it involves we have a calendar in the office that says, you know, these are the meetings, and then we back up. These when the reports have to arrive. These are when certain people do certain things to put the agenda together, and then try our best to meet certain timelines. And of course, with the new procedure bylaw, that'll look a bit different, but it's the same thing as long as you follow the process. We have not delivered agendas to the boxes in around the municipality for regular closed session meetings because they're typically just an agenda, and they're online. But you're right, there's things that we do every time there's a meeting, and we do them over and over again, and that's how you manage the meetings. So for instance, now our next council meeting is not till November 7th. And this is one of the unique situations in the year where there's 3 weeks between meetings instead of 2, which gives everybody a little break, to be honest with you. But typically, the day we're finalizing the minutes for today's meeting, for instance, they're usually finalized by Thursday or Friday. We're already building the agenda for the next meeting. So that's the cycle of the clerk's department.
Perfect. Thanks, Michelle. And where I was going with that was, I know right now when I added up all the dates we have, if I'm counting right, we have 34 council meeting dates between regular sessions and closed sessions. That's not accounting for special council meetings or emergency council meetings. And we know each year there's always going to be several special council meetings, budget time or whatever it might be. Official plan times, whatever. And I know when I looked back at what was proposed at the inaugural council meeting, I think it was 18 council meetings, and that got updated to 31 as we added closed. So where I'm going is I looked at Gravenhurst, I looked at Seguin, I looked at Parry Sound, and I looked at Muskoka Lakes. And out of those, Gravenhurst, Parry Sound, and Muskoka Lakes all have monthly meetings, and Seguin has 18. And what I might propose, and maybe it's food for thought now, and we come back on November, I forget what date you said, but the next council meeting in November with an updated schedule. And what I would like to propose would be council meetings starting earlier in the day be at 9:30 or 10 o'clock, something like that. And we can have a break, you know, whatever it might be, half hour, whatever, for a lunch break or whatever we want to call it. And then maybe the meeting go till 4 or 5 o'clock. Maybe some meetings won't need to go that long, but I'm guessing if we do that and it's just posted as a monthly meeting and we can combine a closed session in with an open session, it will give staff more time to get reports together. It'll give council more time to discuss items and maybe go through an item in one meeting instead of 2 or 3 meetings. It'll take out some of that, when I used probably the incorrect word, but redundancy, in the sense of the photocopying of the agendas or the posting of the minutes. All that stuff I think might save some time. So I'd propose that maybe we do, you know, monthly regular council meetings with the closed session attached to it, starting, you know, in the morning, whatever time that might work for staff and others, and running till late afternoon. And hopefully those council meetings can be more productive than the ones we have going into the evening. And I think with the 21st century we have with Zoom, if somebody finds it important, they can be on the call. I hope there'll be some support for that. And then, of course, that will give us ample time to spend more time on committees. It'll give staff more time to, in between a break, to do other works, if you want to think about that. And also, if we do need to add a special council meeting for the budget or for the you know, procedural bylaw, whatever it might be, that we could do that, you know, on 2 weeks from the regular council meeting when we needed to add one, kind of thing. I'm trying to cut down on the numbers, and I think for some people a full day might work better than 3 partial days. For others it might not work better, but I wanted to get council's opinion on it and see if there might be some support for my idea or suggestion. And if we try it for a year, we can always change it part way through, but just see how it might go and see how the traction is for it. And I know some of the other municipalities have done that. And of course, others do have every other week meetings, right? So it was just something I was thinking of to try and get the meeting number down and longer meetings during the day that might be more productive and give staff more time on things instead of photocopying and whatever it might be that I know does take some time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Comments from others? I'm looking at, yeah, I'm looking at Councillor Woods. Do you, is that
Aye.
going to be a problem for you? Something like that?
So through you, Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
Councillor Nash, he's saying, so one meeting a month all day long would be the idea? Is that?
Sorry, I was muted there, Councillor Woods. Yeah, I would think if we had one regular scheduled meeting that would have a portion of closed on it, have it all day long. And then if we needed a special council meeting for something else, that could be some other time in the month, but just once a month, all day long, regular council meeting with the closed session attached. Just as an idea.
Okay, if you're asking me, because daytime schedule for work, I could swing that if it was once a month, but if it was 2 or 3 times a month, I probably wouldn't be able to swing it. I'm not opposed to it. I don't know what everybody else thinks about it. I don't know. I'm interested in how it's going to affect staff. How's like, would be a question to Michelle, like, would you guys, I mean, I'm sure if we decided to do this, it would be hard to get a system going. I don't know.
Through
Not
you,
enough,
Mr. Mayor,
right?
we're not strangers to one meeting a month. So prior to 2023, we would have one meeting January, one February, one March. And then as tenders and construction and some of the other activities started up, council and certainly more planning applications, the municipality moved to 2 meetings a month. August is always one and December is always one.
Yeah.
One of the things I did notice this year, Right off the hop in January, there was more than several special meetings, and of course, it was related to that planning matter. You immediately moved into budget, which creates another burden of meetings, strategic planning meetings, and then the procedure bylaw meeting. So there was some special circumstances in 2023. And how many meetings did someone say how many meetings there were this year? I didn't count, but
192.
okay.
It was
That's
40,
my advice.
42 so 42
Anyway,
so far.
there was a lot more meetings than absolutely normal, and certainly that number of meetings puts pressure on staff. There was one week, I think we had a meeting on a Monday and a Tuesday and a Thursday, and it's almost too much for everyone. If my opinion counts for anything, I like the idea of daytime meetings. It's the process I came from at the District of Muskoka and at the City of Kawartha Lakes. And I think people think clearly when they get up in the morning and their day is ahead of them. You know, by 6:30, some of us are winding down and we're still having to make decisions. I wouldn't suggest starting a meeting before 9:30. Simply because we don't have a council chambers. You can't just walk in and start a meeting. There's a setup and there's people involved in that. We do an audio check. So I would say the earliest you'd want to start a daytime meeting was 9:30. And that's my opinion, just because things still have to get organized for that day. What you don't have before you right now is, Manish and I were talking about that this last week, is we're working on a budget schedule. So at some point that will come to you, instead of having a budget meeting and then booking a meeting once you're in the meeting and then booking another meeting. We're going to have a clear schedule of meetings for budget, which we think will be 4 total, and have that organized and in a schedule format in the near future. Because those are special meetings that we do, especially the first one. There's a lot of time spent on the first round of budget discussions. As far as organizing for one meeting a month, staff will have to be on their toes with tenders and tender awards and the closing of tenders, writing of the reports. So all that, you probably need a 2.5 month lead time. I'm used to that from where I came from. I just suspect that there may be some issues that require a special meeting that may be time sensitive. So that may be a cautionary note.
Sorry.
Go ahead,
Through you,
Councilor.
Mr. But we could make a special meeting. We didn't have to make them first thing in the morning, right? We could do those at like 4 o'clock
Yeah.
again if we needed to.
That-
I'm good.
If council's
Whatever you guys want to do.
agreeable. Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say, was that, I mean, there will be 2 situations. I think one is we'll have to have some extra meetings for various things. They can probably be, they can, I would think they can be in the afternoon or the evening, and they can be Zoom meetings, or Zoom meetings. The other, as I say, Zoom only meetings. We will have, no doubt, some occasions when we want to have a public meeting, and those probably will need to be in the evening, but I don't think having a public meeting in the daytime, people are not likely gonna, I mean, having a meeting where you're expecting people to come out and give you input, you probably want to do those in the evening anyway, because in the middle of the day, you're not likely gonna get them, and we don't have. Well, I guess they could participate via Zoom, but probably the only meeting if you went with a system of a main meeting, as Councillor Nash is suggesting, then that's the only meeting that you would do during the day, and the rest of them would not likely be in the day. That I can imagine. I don't know. I don't think I have any objection to that particularly, as long as it works out for people. Councillor Bray, did you have any comment in terms of how that fits with your schedule?
No, I'd be happy to look at one daytime meeting a month and a longer meeting. I think that for me, with all the committees and everything, every every quarter, I have a month where I've got just too many things on the go, so I would be very happy with that. And I realize that we'd have to have some special meetings and there would be some things that we would have to probably, but again, being able to do them by Zoom makes it much easier if it's a short meeting or whatever. So I'd be okay with it. I'd be okay with trying it and seeing how it works.
Councillor Lamb.
Yeah, so I guess a few things go through my mind, and I'm totally flexible on this, so I'm not against it at all. The first thing I think about are ratepayers. And, in the old days, they used to have to, they're working during the day, and if they wanted to come out, they would come out during the evening, right, and come to the meeting. So my first question would be, does this prevent people from voicing their opinion? But the world has changed, right? We've got Zoom, we can go on Zoom. If people have a planning file, and it's that important to them, I would think that they could attend, take off work for a couple hours if that's important to them, and go. So I guess what I'm saying is the ratepayer participation, I think it can work with an all-day meeting, whereas I think 10 years ago, it may not have been able to work. The other thing, and I'll take as much blame as all of us in here, this council is unfortunately very long-winded, and whether we like it or not, every meeting when they say, hey, sugar, this shouldn't take us very long, we should be out here in 2 hours, it's always curfew and always at the end. So it'll be an awful long day if we're trying to cram everything in for a month, right? And we have to find some way to shorten that. Like, we can't be debating forever, or we might as well have 2 meetings because we're going to wear out, right? So I'm willing sort of to try it. I would suggest we be starting something like 10 and 10 and then having a break at 1 or something like that.
Yeah.
So, don't forget, our staff come in at 8:30, they've got to do the test, they've got to do everything. I don't want them backing up so it gives them an hour and a half, not an hour unless they set up the day before, I guess, right? So I would be suggesting it would be 10 o'clock. I'm not sure we should be putting the closed in. The closed is by Zoom. It shouldn't bother any of us that we have it one other night at 4 o'clock or whenever we can do it, right? As opposed to cramming it all in. So you're doing open and closed. And I just think that's an awful lot to grapple with. There are also, we call meetings and they come up, and don't forget, what it means is if it doesn't come up now, it's not coming up till a month from now, okay? And there's going to be issues that are going to be in there, right? That we're not going to want to wait a month. So I'm not sure this is going to be as successful as we think. And so anyway, but I'm certainly willing to try it. I think close should be, I don't think it should be the same day. I think it should fit into whenever staff, if they're doing a full day meeting, they should come back and say, well, if we're doing that and we're going to have a separate close, then it should be a week later or 2 weeks later or something, right? Not back to back, like they, that sort of thing. And the only other thing is I would put in the verbiage here, whether it was this schedule or anyone, that I guess they're all hybrid, but closed is by Zoom. Hybrid says to me it's in the community hall. And I think you have to have some reference that all closed meetings are by Zoom only, or something to that effect, right? Or because I think you say all council meetings will be virtual and held in person, but closed aren't virtual. Is my point. Right?
Yeah, good point.
So anyway, so yeah, I'm willing to try it. I guess I don't have a big problem.
Well, folks, could we?
But the only other comment I have, the special meetings you're going to have is, don't forget, next year you're going to be starting into the official plan process. You're going to try to start to put a official plan in a monthly meeting. It isn't going to happen, right? It'd be very difficult, or maybe you can, I don't know. But those are where you get a lot more public involvement and things like that, so, you'd probably have to have a special meeting for something like that, I would think.
I think you're right. Yeah.
And maybe an evening meeting so people can participate, at least the first one, or when we're asking for
Yeah.
comment and sort of things. Thank you.
So for tonight, would you be happy to to refer this back to staff to see if they could come up with how this might work and bring it forward to us again? Is that
Yep, thank
that-
you, Mr. Mayor, I can do that. I'm also going to give some thought to the procedure bylaw, which, by the way, if you're wondering, is we'll be ready to come back to council on November 7th. I spent a good amount of time on the weekend getting all the updates done from October 3rd. And I'm just letting it sit for a couple days and then we go back and look at it and just make sure that and I listened to the audio again. So that will come back to council on the 7th, but I want to contemplate some of the timelines we have in there, because if we have one meeting a month, the agendas are going to be double in size.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure that we don't have a crunch in time in terms of meeting those expectations. So I can give some thought to that as well as an agenda. Am I correct in assuming that Tuesday will be the day? Tuesdays are,
It's the best day for this particular facility.
It is
We're gonna
actually.
Take it over in the day.
Mondays,
right?
Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Friday. Thursdays, you've got pickleball. So Tuesdays tend to be pretty clear. And we recently moved the lunch and learn folks in 2024. They'll be on a Wednesday, I believe. But not Tuesday. Yeah, they Wednesday. Yeah. Yeah, we've worked on that for about a year. So, okay, I will speak with staff, specifically Paula Macri, talk to her about planning matters, and we'll come back with something
Okay.
on November 7th.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, when you send out the procedural bylaw on November the 7th, can you make a side note to tell councillors and the mayor not to read it, just to simply pass it? I'm kidding.
Okay, so there is a motion on the floor, I think, am I right?
There is a motion on the floor. You may want to withdraw based on that staff
The mover
direction.
and seconder, who were they?
That was Councillor Nash and Councillor Woods.
Are you willing to withdraw that and get a report back from?
Yes, I would be.
Oh, yeah. Withdrawn. Okay. Okay, now you were 20 minutes early, now we're 20 minutes late, we need to do a curfew. Could I get a mover and seconder, please, that we extend for half an hour? And I think we can finish, maybe.
Well, we've got some closed session matters. I think,
I know, but-
Mr. Mayor, we may need another half an hour, an extra hour.
Oh, dude, it's a nothing item. I mean, it's not a nothing item, I shouldn't say that, but it's, it's,
I'm just.
oh, sorry, you have some other, you have another report too, don't you? Sorry, I was just thinking there was only one thing on there, but there's only one resolution. Well,
Yeah, yes, Mr. Mayor, I believe 15.3 will require a little bit more time than maybe expected. Not a lot, but
so you don't think half an hour, so, because,
No.
we're already,
before we decide-
we're already 20 minutes into the half an hour.
Yeah, we're not gonna fill it up. Oh, no, we have a way of filling it up. I don't care. Let's just
Well,
go on.
wait, but if we're gonna do that, then we have to suspend the bylaw, right? Because our current bylaw doesn't allow us to go more than half an hour, right?
That's correct.
Well, if we do it for a half hour and we're not finished, can't we do it for another half? Can't we suspend it at that time if we need to?
We've only got 10 minutes left.
Okay,
Well,
okay, let's move.
All right, I
We have
don't know.
we have 11.3, we have correspondence. We have
Yeah,
closed session. Mr. Mayor, I believe we will need more than 10 minutes. So what?
well, do you, what do you want? Do you want a motion to suspend the bylaw and continue until we're finished, or do you want?
Sure.
All right. Who's gonna move?
There's no motion on the table now, so you don't
No.
have to worry about this. I will give you a blank.
No.
I'd like to write it down.
Okay, so the motion is that the council of the municipality of Whitestone suspend section, and you'll have to figure out what it is, because I don't know, of the procedure bylaw. Bylaw to continue. What is it? Oh, section 9
yeah.
of the procedure bylaw to continue until business is completed. So who will move that? It's moved by Councillor Bray. Seconded by Councillor Woods. Moved by Councillor Bray, seconded by Councillor Woods. All those in favor? You gotta. I'll give it back to you.
Thank you, Councillor Bray,
Yes.
Councillor Lamb,
Yes.
Councillor Nash,
Yes.
Councillor Woods,
Yes.
and Mayor Comrie.
Yes.
Motion is carried.
Spending. Okay, 11.3 then is the Roma conference. And it's simply a case of, well, you have the information about when it is and everything. It's in Toronto. What we're trying to do, I guess, sorry. Lost the page I was on. Oh, sorry. Need a mover and seconder that the Council of Municipality Whitestone authorizes the following members of council to attend the 2024 Roma conference, and we'll populate the list, so. Moved by Councillor Woods, seconded by Councillor Lamb. All right, so who wants to go? It's in Toronto. I would like to go. I wouldn't have any expenses other than the actual registration fee, because I can be there, right? A place to go, but Councillor Bray had indicated she wanted to go. Anybody else wants to go?
Through you, Mr. Mayor.
I've never been to one.
Yep. Councillor Nash, I think.
Well, sorry, Councillor Nash, did you, sorry, before we get Councillor Woods, or do you want to be can you get 3 days off?
Oh, at this point, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure I could.
And thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. All I was gonna say was, I would like to go if I could. However, when I'm looking at the dates in January, the 21st to the 23rd, unfortunately, I believe I'm gonna be unavailable those dates. But all I was thinking was, if I'm correct, was it, I think Councillor Bray and yourself, Mr. Mayor, you'd gone down to one, I think, several months ago. So I was just gonna say, maybe if Councillor Woods wanted to go, and maybe Councillor Lamb wanted to go this time, would be great. And then on the next conference, maybe I could put my name forward to attend, but just unfortunately, I wouldn't be able to go to this one. But I think that way each of us on council are getting exposure to them if we just go through, and each time we try and shift it up by having a couple different people go, might be good for us all for everything going forward. That was all.
Okay, Councillor Bray, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, I'm quite happy if I went last year, and if there are two people who haven't been and want to go, I'm quite happy to not go.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, through you, I haven't been in years. I was to one and had a delegation to a minister. So I'd like to go. I think we should rotate it around. I think we have to be careful. I guess I have a couple of comments. I only think 2 should attend. I don't think we should be sending 3 or 4, particularly when I look at what the budget is going to be next year and some of the optics of what I think is going to be not so good times. The second thing I think that needs to happen is Councillor Woods and I if we're going, need to come back with some sort of report to council that needs to be on the agenda so that we're not just going and us, you know, getting whatever information. And I'm certainly willing to, in this case, you know, come back and say verbally, here's what we attended, here's what we learned, that, all that kind of stuff. I think that's important. And then next year, again, I think if there's a delegation, I can handle it. I've done it before, or Councilor Woods can, or the two of us can. So anyway, that's my thoughts on it. But thank you.
Okay, so, what do we have? Councillor Lamb and Councillor Woods are going to attend then? Is that?
Mhm. I take it, by the
Yeah.
way, that if for some reason, and it could be that, you know, I've still got COVID going on or whatever, that if Councilor Woods or myself couldn't make it, that there could be an alternate. I would, you know, hopefully that they don't say, oh, you can't send the mayor because Councilor Lamb's sick, right? Well, hopefully that's not the type of organization.
I don't know.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I, you know, once you register with a name, I'm not sure it's problematic. I really don't know. When I was on the board of directors for OGRA, the Ontario Good Roads Association, we allowed for alternates because things happen. I don't know much about Roma because I'm
We
not
deal-
really
we
connected.
Deal with it if it comes up.
Yeah.
But also when the good roads thing come up, my personal feeling is that the road superintendent, very important road superintendent be there, and one other member from council. Again, it's mostly a roads one. So again, I think we need to set the example in the municipality of not going overboard. You know, quite frankly, the one I was at years ago, the entire council from McDougall was there. Because I went out to lunch or I went out to dinner with them, and I got Dale Robinson to pay for dinner, so it was good. So anyway, but the whole council was there, and anyway, I think times have changed a bit, and again, I'm fearful of what's coming down the track in terms of our budget next year. So, thank you.
Yeah, that hasn't, well, the whole council wasn't there. Their whole council wasn't at the last one, but,
Well, maybe they're taking our lead, who knows?
well, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, in many ways, I have to say, I mean, if there was only one thing that you could go to, the thing that is most important for me is AMO, which is in summertime. The problem is it's not, I mean, not the problem. It's, it's not been in Toronto the last few times, right? So it means that the travel expenses are more than like you can't just get on a GO train or get on a subway and go to it or something, you know, you gotta get on a plane or drive or do something, right? So, but I mean, I think I've made the argument before, it's very important. There's lots of useful things that you find out about, you know, like things like well, anyway, on digress, is that we gotta keep going here. Is this, so what I have is the list is populated with Councillor Lamb, Councillor Woods. Is that what we got?
Yep. That's what we have. Councillor Bray,
All right.
we're voting on.
Yeah, sorry, she's calling the question.
Calling the question, sorry. I'm just jumping ahead to move things along.
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Lamb.
Yes.
Councillor Nash,
Yes.
Councillor Woods,
Yes.
and Mayor Comrie.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion is carried. We'll have staff get those
Okay, number
registrations.
12 is the correspondence. which I'm trying to get the page up. There's not a whole lot of it, but. Okay, so what we would need is we'd need a motion. Whereas the Council of the Municipality of Whitestone has reviewed the correspondence items listed on page 8 of the October 17th. 2023 council agenda. Now therefore be it resolved that council receive the correspondence items for information with the following extracted for further discussion or action. Would somebody move that, please? Moved by Councillor Woods. Seconded by Councillor Bray. And let's populate the list. Couple of thank you letters. Thing about administrative penalties under the Building Broadband Faster Act, which don't, we're not subject to those administrative penalties in case you're interested. Some material circulated from the District of Prairie Sound Municipal Association meeting that we attended here in this room.
Did we ever get a thank you letter from them?
No,
The District Association?
I don't think so.
No, I'm not expecting
It was
one.
a good day, it was good dinner. I think on their agenda, they might have a thank you, but anyway,
Mhm.
maybe it's in the mail. You know.
And a notice about the annual information meeting for Belvedere Heights. Anyway, what of those do you wish, you wish to extract any of those? My question. I don't hear anybody, so I guess we can just. If there's nothing, we can call the question and receive them and move on.
Thank you, Councillor Bray.
Yes.
Councillor Lamb.
Yeah.
Councillor Nash.
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Woods
Yes.
and Mayor Comrie.
Yes.
That motion is carried.
Okay, so that moves that out of there. Councillor items, are there any? I'm not hearing any councillor items. There are no members of the public on our call or in the room, so we have no questions from the public. How about a motion to move into adjourn to closed session? Moved by Councillor Wood, seconded by Councillor Lamb. That this meeting move into a closed session at 10:32 p.m.
Councillor Bray.
Yes.
Councillor Lamb.
Yes.
Councillor Nash.
Sorry, I was muted. Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Woods.
Yes.
Mayor Comrie.
Yes.
Thank you. We're in closed session and I will turn off the recording. One moment.
Yes, turn, if you don't mind, turn. We are now back in open session at 11:18 p.m. Matters arising from closed session, a volunteer application for the Recreation Committee. Need a mover and seconder that the Council of the Municipality of Whitestone does hereby approve the following appointment to the Recreation Committee. Andrew Lackram. Moved by Councillor Wood, seconded by Councillor Bray. All those in favor, please.
Councillor Bray.
Yes.
Councillor Lamb.
Yes.
Councillor Nash.
Yes.
Councillor Woods.
Yes.
Mayor Comrie.
Yes.
Thank you.
Confirmatory bylaw. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Lamb moves, seconded by Councillor Woods. But bylaw number 67 twenty twenty-three being the confirmatory bylaw for the regular council meeting of Tuesday, October 17th, 2023, be given a first, second, third, and final reading and is passed as of this date. Is all the question.
Counselor Bray,
Yes.
Counselor Lamb,
Yes.
Counselor Nash,
Yes.
Counselor Woods,
Yes.
Mayor Comrie.
Yes. And finally, who would like to move adjournment? Counselor Woods would like to move, seconded by Counselor Bray. Therefore, let it resolved that this meeting be adjourned at 11:20 PM until the regular meeting of Tuesday, November 7th, 2023 at 4 PM or at the call of the chair. Or at the call of the chair. We'll take the vote.
Okay. Counselor Bray,
Yes.
thank you. Counselor Lamb,
Yes.
Counselor Nash,
Yes.
Counselor Woods,
Yes.
and Mayor Comrie.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion is carried and